Okay, yeah, I've been recording actually already. Yeah, but it's probably mine's gonna be shit. Like I don't want to have to rely on mine.
Fair.
I really, really don't want to have to rely on mine. That's okay. But it's good to have a backup. It's always good to have a backup.
Yeah. And my setup is needlessly complicated. Well, not needlessly, but more than necessary, just because I have it intentionally set up so that I hear the Discord audio and all the rest of my audio from my computer, but not my mic, and the recording only hears the Discord audio and my mic.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Because, I can't...
Because I want to listen to music and shit, but not have that in the recording.
Yeah. Fair enough. Are our voices music enough to your ears?
Oh, they're beautiful, but I like to constantly be listening to something.
Okay, fair enough.
And...
All right.
Yeah.
Do we want to... Sorry, we've been trying to get...
yeah, do we want to actually start the conversation?
Yeah, do we guys... Okay, so, I don't know if there's other people who's going to show up. But...
This might just be a smaller one.
Yeah, which is cool. Anybody have any immediate things they want to say? Oh, it's humming.
Hi.
Okay. Hello.
Hey.
Anybody have anything they want to say or start off? Or Milcom, do you have things you want to say? And I'll read aloud what you type so we can have it recorded for posterity.
We should really have a text to speech bot that like reads from the voice text.
Oh, is that a thing?
Probably.
If we can get that, that would be awesome. I feel like that would be great. But I also don't mind giving dramatic interpretations of what Milcom writes.
Yeah, it'll be fun now. Is my fan loud?
Is your what loud?
Is my fan loud?
I don't hear your fan.
Okay, good.
Likewise.
So guys, Sam's discourse in Gen was fantastic. Oh, is it just that?
Yeah, no. All of my discourse was just me yelling at Kant at 4 a.m.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. Do you seem to have revised your thoughts?
Yes, it was 4 a.m.
Okay. Care to?
Okay, so basically, after I actually kept going through it, it turns out he also recognizes the issue with the exact line of thought that he put forth here. This is something I see really often in philosophical writing, and it pisses me off. A philosopher says something and gives no indication that they disagree with it. And then I want to be so angry at them agreeing with it, because they're putting it forth like it's one of their arguments. And then they disagree with it later, and it's like, what the fuck? Why didn't you just say you disagree with it right away? Why didn't you set out your goal right away? What are you doing?
Yeah.
Bruh, says Milcom.
Yeah, that shit's fucking awful. I honestly, just philosophers and not being properly clear with what they say just seems to be a massive issue.
It's as if philosophers don't have editors.
Like, holy shit, can you just, read over this, once before you publish it?
I was thinking about this, though, how different publishing this kind of text would have been back then versus now. This is not... it's just very different from the process now. Like we said, they probably didn't have editors. They maybe had someone read it. But they just literally wrote it and published it. I don't know. I'm not a fucking historian, but
They probably the major way that they determined whether or not it was good was just by trying to convince themselves that it was good. So,
that's not untrue.
And if they were able to publish shit in the past, they probably had connections to be able to publish stuff in the future, and then things that they would publish after the first few writings that got them popular would probably have less oversight over them, which makes perfect sense, because this is one of the latest texts that Kant wrote. He was 60 when he wrote this, so it makes sense. It's already well-known and stuff.
Yeah.
Actually, I think the place we should start is was anybody really confused by any part? And I'm going to start right away because I was really confused by a part.
Me too, but you go
Sorry,
first.
just to quickly cut in, there is somehow no Discord bot for that type of text-to-speech to just like automatically do it for every message in a specific chat. But I might make one at some point.
Okay,
Yeah, no,
that would be awesome.
making one wouldn't be that hard.
Yeah, I think Google has like a TTS API that I could probably use. So.
Oh man, tying APIs together, good luck.
I know, right? But anyway,
Right.
go on with that.
You guys are nerds.
Oh, I know,
I
right?
understood nothing. I understood nothing.
Okay. So, I'm going to be honest. I don't know how I even did remotely well with understanding this. I left myself so little time that I got 7 hours of sleep, listened to it at 2 times speed on YouTube, and still was 15 minutes late.
Somnia, I just want to be frank with everybody. I did not finish the reading. I have read it before, and so I was like, oh, I'll just read it again. It won't take too long, and I still procrastinated. And so basically, I started reading it at like 11:45 this morning. So like like 3 hours ago, not even.
Nice.
I didn't get to finish it either, so I guess.
Apparently, we're all just terrible about actually reading things.
Well, if you guys remember, we did say section 1 and 2 up to section 2 was kind of long, so we'll just see how far everybody gets.
Yeah.
We did say that.
Yeah.
So
I did the preface in chapter 1, so.
But I
that's
did do
good.
it.
All right.
That's good. I think that's fine. I honestly think that's fine. Because
I didn't
it's so
finish
dense.
chapter 3, and I don't want to talk about chapter 3 yet because I'm still so confused about it that I can't even raise points against it. So it's fine for me to stick to 1 and 2.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
that's what we'll do.
Yeah.
Well,
I think
I guess
maybe
not
going
everyone
through both
does,
was a
so-
little ambitious for us, apparently.
it was ambitious, but that's okay. Nothing wrong with being ambitious. We figure it out as we go.
Learning process.
Okay, so I'm going to ask my question anyway, even though I guess not every single person will know exactly what I'm talking about, because it'll still be useful for them to ask this question. What exactly does Kant mean by an end in itself? What is his definition of that idea? I can't figure it out.
I mean, I think of it as it's just literally there's no extra anything required for that end to be an end. Does that make sense?
No, I honestly am having trouble making sense of how an end could exist without a means associated with it.
Let's see. Let's do an end.
You can have a
itself.
goal without knowing how you're going to get to it.
I mean, I don't think that he proves... sorry.
If you have a goal without knowing how you're going to get to it, then I mean, it's still... You still have a means end pair in the accomplishment of that goal.
Oh, guys.
But
sorry,
you can't necessarily. You don't necessarily you aren't necessarily able to accomplish a goal, right?
Milcom said, ends in itself are done for their own sake, not for the sake of any other end.
So
I
basically,
guess what he means in that case would be more of a.
so when he says an end in itself, it doesn't mean that there's no means end pair pertaining to that end. It just means that that end
Is also
in context is not a means. It cannot be seen as a means. That's all.
Right.
Yes.
It's just
Okay.
a means. Just an end on its own. No means.
That makes a lot of sense, and I'm going to have to reflect on that and understand the rest of the text from where he introduces that idea onwards.
It is important, I think, to understand that, the rest. I probably.
I mean, he spends this whole, fucking while going on, and he uses the word ends 3 times per sentence.
Yeah.
He uses it for different meanings because sometimes he uses it just to bash on utilitarianism, and sometimes he uses it for his own concept, which is quite different.
Oh, yeah, he bashes on utilitarianism a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He
mean,
does
which
bring
isn't
up some good
surprising.
arguments for it, but there is a certain concern I have. But I will talk about that after some yet.
Alright, yeah. Alright, anybody else got any confusion pieces?
Yeah, so for me personally, so the thing is, Kant doesn't specifically say that the reason why laws are universalizable and important is because of the concept of having respect for them, and he does make a pretty self-contained cohesive argument for why, like, concept of respect is different from other emotions. He also acknowledges that respect in itself is also subjective. So, like, I'm not sure to what extent he has proven that respect is not part of being a human rational and is part of any rational being, because he was trying to do that, and I think he failed. I don't know, maybe I'm missing something.
I think he's really clear that I don't know, he's clearer about this in the latter part, so if you haven't gone all the way through, then whatever. But, like, it seems like he's really clear that his point in the first two sections is not to provide a proof. It's to try to set the groundwork. It's to try to set the groundwork for the third part.
He himself has, like, admitted that it's possible to say that thing has been done for the sake of duty, not in accordance to duty, has probably never happened empirically, but that doesn't matter. But in this case, why we're trying to have the conversation, and I guess that's what like the third chapter goes into more than the first two. Don't know.
So I just am wondering how you guys feel. I mean, because there's just so much here. Part of me thinks it might be helpful to sort of move through the text, like actually just like kind of go through the points he was trying to make as he makes them, and like see what we want to say about it. How do you guys? And like,
sure.
Yeah, that makes
Kant's
sense.
argument moves really straightforwardly from like one thing to another in a lot of cases. So I feel like that would be a really practical approach.
That makes sense.
He is pretty systematic about it, so that would be good.
Yeah.
Practical even.
Milcom seconds it. So, okay. Or I guess it's like fourth or fifth sit. I don't fucking know. All right. So I guess first, I don't know how to do this. I don't want to just read things aloud. But because I had this little like little chart I made, a flow chart about like this, like when he was setting up, I guess categories of categories of like cognition and laws and all this shit.
Oh yeah.
And just trying to draw it out a little bit. I guess I could just take a picture and then upload it. It wouldn't be in the recording, but it would be it. Oh, it doesn't matter. It's super ugly. It's super ugly. It's super ugly. You may not. I can't even read my own handwriting. But whatever. It's what we got. Maybe you guys can get some of it. But like dividing things between the material first, like the material and the formal.
Yeah.
Oh god, it's so ugly. Whatever. Sorry, guys.
Sorry.
And so like the material are objects and things in the physical world, whereas the formal are things of like reason. And I guess like I said, he didn't use this term, but I think of like ideas. I mean, does those distinctions make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think that Kant also does a pretty good job establishing that one of the properties of the formal is that it has the formal things don't really exist unconditionally. Does that make sense? Right?
Wait, when did you say that? Sorry.
All right, what are the words I'm looking for? Somewhere in the preface, he's talking about how formal ideas because they don't contain reality within them, can take most any shapes depending on what you assume. Does that make sense?
My brain is
okay. Let me go try to find the part. Let me go try to find the part where he says it.
Yeah. Okay, Milcom says, isn't the point of the formal to be unconditional, concerning no particular object, and thus be universal, though?
That's generally what he says, anyway.
Concerning no particular object isn't exactly the same thing as being completely unconditional. Does that make sense?
It's like it is not unconditional, but it is unconditional pertaining to empiricism.
Yes,
Empirical factors don't come into it.
That's what's important about it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like a priori. Malcolm says yeah to that. You're dead on. Malcolm approves.
Even if it is conditioned on some supposition, that doesn't mean that that's not the important property. The important property is that it doesn't depend on any particularities of reality.
And also, like, it is entirely possible for, like, one formal idea to be conditional upon another formal idea. This is how we logic, metaphysics to an extent. So if we said that all ideas that are formal were unconditional, that wouldn't make sense, because that would mean that there's no such thing as a unifying formal, because individual formal ideas wouldn't connect to each other, which would mean that philosophy is impossible.
Does he use the term unconditional ever? I don't see it. I don't know. Maybe if my translation is different, I don't see. Yeah, I think you're right. Like, he doesn't say unconditional. He just says.
I'm looking for the part where he says the thing which I interpreted.
I mean, this is right at the beginning of the preface. I can just read it right here. All rational cognition is either material and concerned with some object, or formal and occupied only with the form of the understanding and of reason itself, and with the universal rules of thinking in general, without distinction of objects. Formal philosophy is called logic, whereas material philosophy, which has to do with determinate objects and the laws to which they are subject, is in turn divided into two. I mean, that's really what he says about formal stuff. So,
yeah.
And then he says, Malcolm says, to say that formal knowledge is the a priori would seem to imply that material knowledge has no metaphysical or pure part, right? And I like, yeah, that's the thing I was confusing. It felt like it was just folding back in on itself. 'Cause like in my little flowchart or whatever you want to call it, I mean, if you look down, like, so material gets divided into, like, things of nature or freedom, or laws of nature or freedom. And then, like, under the categories, like, then he says, like, okay, so, like, when we study nature, it's a study of physics. It's a study of what does happen. But then we can, like, analyze that either formally or materially. And so when we're looking at it formally, then it's metaphysics of nature. But, like, it does seem...
The metaphysics of physics is not like an alternative to a way to analyze the world. It's the thing that comes before studying the material part. So it's more like every material part has a formal part. Because you can see ethics in itself as having a material part, and that's the entire point of the groundwork, to set up the prior metaphysical part of it. And you can do the same thing with natural laws. Physics. You can get the metaphysical part, and it's like, again, it's not you choose one or the other. You need, in Kant's opinion, you need the metaphysical part to be able to do something useful with the other part, the material part.
Well, like, I'm sorry if I didn't fully understand what you just said, but, like, thinking of, like, what, like, the metaphysics of nature, like, what that looks like, is that, like, have to do with...
And the metaphysics of nature is the things you can say about nature that derive from pure reason, without needing perception.
Would it be something like causation?
Like causation, exactly, yeah. Causation is, example. Or identity, or...
Well, I feel like...
The indiscernibles. That could be another example of things derived from pure reason. Because they hold for all possible worlds. It's not just... We have ours and we observe it and then we come to conclusions. We only conclude from pure thought.
Malcolm says the metaphysics of nature still concerns an object, the natural world.
Yes, but it doesn't describe it. It just forms a groundwork onto which you describe it.
So it's formal in the sense that it's a priori knowledge, supposedly, about the physical world. But the thing is, like, how is it? Causation isn't.
Well, okay.
Well, actually, no. You could argue that causation is a priori, in that it is how we interpret the world. Like, we inherently tend to assume, like, when two events always happen in succession. It's just an innate part of our mental structure to believe that there's causation involved. And so that, I guess, in a sense, that's a priori, because like we just are wired to think that way. Is that right?
Then the struggle is to prove that that is the proper way to look at it, regardless of our wiring.
Yeah, Milgram says, yeah, that's exactly what Kant held, synthetic a priori. Yeah. Well, yeah, because that's why I was saying it, because of my knowledge of what Kant thinks. That's why I said that. Okay. So then the other thing I thought was interesting, though, is like how like the whole idea of the laws of freedom as being part of the material world. I thought that was really interesting. I don't even know. I mean, when you just first see that, Malcolm says, what? Spelled W-A-T.
Maybe he used a specific word in German that is not quite freedom, and that's how it got translated. I don't know. Because it doesn't make sense just...
Yeah. That seems a lot.
Well, I think maybe the way I see it is that it's like the fact that like our will. Well, I don't know. Like I don't know. I don't know why that's material.
I can't think of what. Okay. I think what he's doing here. I don't know why he uses the word freedom or anything like it. But I do think that what he's doing here is he's trying to construct ethics as the part of the study of morals which comes out of the specifics of what is actually there, rather than that which can be determined through a metaphysical approach.
I mean, the way I was thinking of it, like if you think of it, like if you take away from material, maybe empirical, I mean, the fact that we seem to have freedom or seem to be beings in the world with free will or whatever, like that is maybe an empirical fact, and that's why it's in the material. Wait.
Could it be, he says material philosophy is having to do with definite objects and the laws that govern them. Would human beings and human society be that definite object?
I think that makes sense to me.
Basically, human beings are definite objects. The idea of a thing with rationality is not, or a thing with reason is not limited to human beings. However, if you are able to discern rules that govern all rational beings, then a fortiori they will also apply to humans in the end.
Remind me what
you have to do the groundwork. As in even more so.
Why don't you just say that?
It's 4 words.
But
you learned that from the bat, and then you never stop saying it.
I
actually learned that in law school.
Oh, okay.
Fortiori is a type of reading of civil law.
Got it.
Interpretation of civil law by judges, yeah.
Okay. So maybe my translation is different, because Malcolm just took a picture of the text. It says, and for the latter, they are laws of the human will so far as it is affected by nature. I'm so sorry, guys, because I wasn't reading. I should have checked. I was not reading off the one that I posted. I'm reading off of my translation, which is a different edition. It's supposed to be the standard, though. Apparently,
I did read from your translation, so that makes way more fucking sense.
Wait, you read from my translation? I didn't post that part though.
No, I read from the translation you posted in the reading schedule.
But that's in. Oh yeah.
That one has freedom as the term used.
I see. Oh wait, that one does have freedom. Wait, what did Malcolm post?
That was where I quoted material philosophy is. It's like the next paragraph after that.
Nature laws of freedom, page 1 even.
Yeah, it's on page 1.
Oh, it does say freedom. Oh, so Milcom's translation is different.
Yeah.
Okay, I wonder if nah. Well, it doesn't matter. Anyways, I think it's obviously a confusing term or confusing thing. So I like that the laws of the human will, though. I like that. That makes sense to me. Okay, so then Milcom says a proper discussion of freedom from Kant's point of view can best be seen in his antinomies to the first critique and the second critique. Okay.
I don't know what you're talking about. Anybody?
Milcom. You can't just drop that shit without more explanation. I mean, it means further reading. That's what it basically means, I'm guessing. That means read more.
I think like concept
Yeah.
like critique of pure reason. And
I just mean read more shit.
Those to have like annotations to them.
Okay, but then, so moving on from the confusing thing about laws of human will. So the science of the laws of nature is physics, and then the science of the laws of the human will is ethics. And so that's, I guess, that's what we're going to be talking about, folks.
Well, technically, we're talking about ethics, but meta-ethics, because we're talking about laws of will, not human will, and then we try to devise or derive human will from laws of will.
Yeah.
Metaphysical ethics means meta-ethics, basically.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because we're saying.
And for the most part, what he's trying to show is that an intentional and mandatory part of meta-ethics is duty, and that's basically what he's trying to show.
Milcom says, "Are you reading from my translation now, Freedom?" No, I'm not. I just read from the picture you posted. I don't have that translation available to me. Okay, so there's wait, what? Is this not the same? This is the same.
This one says.
That's the one that I posted.
This is exactly the same thing. This isn't the one you're reading from, Milcom.
It is the same, yeah.
Whatever. Let's continue. All
right. What's
next? I don't even know. I don't know why. Okay. So I think it's interesting his distinction of so when you're talking about I guess the laws of freedom or the laws of the human will, he says sorry, I have too many things on my desk. So the laws of physics or the laws of nature are the laws in accordance with everything that happens, whereas the laws of freedom or the laws of the human will are laws in accordance with everything that ought to happen. And I don't know if anybody had anything to say about that. I mean, the fact that there might be laws about what ought to happen.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, obviously he thinks that, but
I certainly don't like this. I think the very idea of a law of something that ought to be is something that you can't have an idea of what ought to be without it being preconditioned, is what I'm trying to say. Ultimately, my fundamental disagreement, this is getting really deep really quickly, but ultimately my disagreement with the idea of a categorical imperative is that it's impossible, because all statements of that kind are ultimately conditioned. Okay, that's big, but I feel ultimately in order to form a categorical imperative, right, in order to form some sort of idea which doesn't come with a condition like that, in order to move from logic to morals, you have to make a leap.
In order to derive an ought from an is,
Yeah,
basically?
yeah.
Yeah.
This is a huge
Literally, you
issue.
just can't do that, really?
Yeah,
I
can't. I don't see how. It
All right,
seems
really quick.
like.
Malcolm
Sorry,
says,
go.
I don't think he says anything substantive here. It's just a passing comment. Let's not be pedantic. But I don't think, like, how can... I mean...
Well, no.
So here's the
This
thing. Even though we agree that you need a leap of logic to go from an is to an ought, Kant is saying himself, which is why you can't use this argument against him, is that oughts are not made from is, which is why you need metaphysics. Because metaphysics of morals is what allow you to start from the oughts, not to do this any leap thing, the is to the ought. He starts with the ought. I think that's what he's trying to do. I'm not saying he managed to do it. I'm just saying that he is not going into that trapping of.
I definitely do agree that it's possible. For instance, like you could imagine metaphysics of morals trying to come up with some properties that any ought statement might have without making specific statements, right?
Also, like an argument you can make that as long as beings with reason exist, can have oughts, and then oughts are conditioned on the existence of beings with reason, but they're not conditioned on anything else. In which case, they're not conditioned on empiricism outside of the existence of reason.
Why is it necessary that something with reason also has some idea of morals?
Really quick.
It's not necessary that a being with reason has morals, but morals don't make sense in a world in which reason doesn't exist.
Okay.
Apparently, so Malcolm says he tackles this objection. I don't know how to say this word. Albeit, how do you say that word? Albeit. How do you say it? I don't even know.
Albeit.
Okay, not
I
in
thought
a
it was
particular.
albeit.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea.
I'm looking it up.
Albeit not in a particularly convincing fashion in the third part.
Okay. I'll wait until I've read the third section to fully expound on this. Like I won't assume that it's bad.
It's crazy. I've read this whole thing before and like worked through it, and then reading it again, I was like, I don't know. I just felt like I was reading it for the first time. I mean, it did it in a sense, like, I think it probably was easier than when it was actually the first time, but, like, it didn't feel like reading something I knew already. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Also, it's albeit, 3 syllables, long O.
Okay.
Long E, I mean.
Okay.
Long O.
So then... I'm trying to think of important things to highlight. So then, I mean, basically he sort of, I'm just going based on what I have underlined, the passages I have underlined as important things. So like the next thing, maybe, oh shit. Malcolm says, this is intended as being a shift from common sense moral philosophy to actually philosophizing about it. That's the title of the section, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Wait, what? The title of the section for me is preface.
Yeah, we're looking at the preface.
Well, I guess we are still looking at the preface. We haven't actually gone to 1 yet.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think.
What is that? Yeah.
I'll just read what. Sorry, give me a moment. I'm just gonna read this next passage that I think is valuable. Guys, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, so like, just understand that. You have to understand that. Okay, since my aim here is directed properly to... Oh, shit. I should probably find where this is in the text you guys have, because I'm reading something different. This is not good that I'm doing this. It is... So it's on the second page, first column, last paragraph. Since my purpose here is directed to moral philosophy, I narrow the question I'm asking down to this. Isn't it utterly necessary to construct a pure moral philosophy that is completely free from everything that may be only empirical and thus belong to anthropology? That there must be such a philosophy is self-evident from the common idea of duty and moral laws. Everyone must admit that if a law is to hold morally, i.e., as a basis for someone being obliged to do something, it must imply absolute necessity. That the command, "you are not to lie," doesn't apply only to human beings, as though it had no force for other rational beings, and similarly with all other moral laws properly so called, that the basis for obligation here mustn't be looked for in people's natures or as their circumstances, but must be found a priori solely in the concepts of pure reason, and that any precept resting on principles of mere experience may be called a practical rule, but never a moral law.
Okay. So doesn't he say... So is it my imagination, or here, does he say that there must be such a philosophy is self-evident because, and then he defines it and doesn't give the reason?
I mean, he doesn't give the reason here, he gives the reason later. Like, he gives the reason why obligation is to necessity when he describes his concept of respect. But that's later on.
Okay. I'm writing a little note about that, because if it doesn't get fulfilled, then I'm going to be angry.
Yeah, but I think...
I don't think he succeeded, but, like, that's what he do later.
I just think, like, the idea that a law, if it is to hold morally, must carry with it absolute necessity. I mean, I'm just curious, like, do you guys agree with that?
And the logic is that if it weren't to carry absolute necessity, it would be overtaken by desire, preference, and fear, which is like a point he brings up later. Whereas if we acknowledge a law as absolutely necessary, and it doesn't matter that our disposition as not fully but partially rational beings is to overpower that law. So basically he's sort of making a practical argument, even though he's trying not to.
And Milcom says, self-evident here, I think, means following from common sense. The proper investigation of it is indeed reserved for a later part.
Okay, that's good. Fucking self-evident is not a phrase I'm used to being used in that way. That seems like a translation thing.
Also, we have to be used to the thing, speaking of translation, that he doesn't use common sense per se. He uses, like, human reason. And that gets translated to common sense. I think there's like a note somewhere that says that.
Yeah, general human reason is the term he uses.
All right. This is hard. This is really hard because I feel like the answer is going to continue to be, here's an argument against the thing, and then it's like, oh, don't worry, that's addressed poorly in the third part.
I mean, I think we're just going to have to stumble through it our best we can.
I mean, to me, it kind of makes sense to withhold.
So, okay, here's the thing. I actually do agree with the fundamental principle that it makes sense that fuck. Okay, let me go back to the exact wording. You know what? Just carry on. I'll say things later.
You don't have to. We can wait for you to gather your thoughts. It's okay.
Bye. Welcome back.
He's back. Okay.
Did I get correct there?
What did you say?
Did I get cut out? I said something.
For a second, yeah. What did you say?
I said, for me, it makes sense to withhold judgment until the whole thing's been read and digested. Okay.
We heard the first part of that, but yeah, I think it makes sense too. Okay, and then I guess like the idea that in the case of what is to be morally good, it is not enough that it conform with the moral law, but it also must be done for the sake of the law. I mean, how do you guys feel about that? I mean, it's classic deontology, right? Like, it's all about...
Yeah, he's basically saying that when something is in accordance to law instead of because of it, then it's just pure coincidence. Or at the very least, part of it has to do with luck.
Malcolm says something, something, goodwill, something, something. Yeah, okay, that's actually a good thing to talk about. And maybe this is
character.
In section. What is out of character?
No, it's content of character. That's how he portrays it in like section chapter 1.
Yeah. So maybe we could just start heading over there. But because I don't know, that just interested me. The idea of like a goodwill as being the base requirement for deserving good things. Oh my gosh. And Malcolm says, this is actually encapsulated in the third section. The will is its own law, which sort of provides reason for that proposition. But
it's again.
yeah. But I mean, I feel like I understand what he's saying and kind of intuitively agree with it, but in a sense, it feels kind of spooky to say like to talk about the goodwill as something so concrete, like to will something good, like in general, like it's not about willing specific actual things. It's just like in general to will the good. Like I don't know if that actually.
It is specific, not in the sense that it's practical or it like follows the consequences, but it is specific in the sense that it's a part of reason to be specific about things. Because if you don't differentiate between things, you can't actually do metaphysics. So this is why he also does his like differentiation thing between like different types of actions, and whichever cannot be shown to indicate goodwill. Then in the second chapter, he does say that it's possible to say that we have never encountered goodwill. It's funny.
Yeah, that is the thing he says. He does admit that it is totally possible that it's just not a thing.
And like he also gives a lot of examples in the first section, and then in the second chapter he says that building philosophy from examples or analogies is bad.
Yeah, no, I think specifically the reason he's doing that is because the first section is supposed to be devoted specifically to dispelling common sense ideas of morality.
It's dedicated to.
It's dedicated to what?
Educated people. It actually says that.
Oh boy.
Is it just me? Did someone start trying to talk? And then it cut out. And then Malcolm says, we're going in opposite directions in each section.
Can you say exactly what you mean by that, Malcolm? I don't get it exactly.
Oh, I think I know where he's going with it, but I'll let him type it out. Okay, so from specific examples to general principles in the first, and I'm going to guess from, but the second section, well, I'll let him finish typing. Didn't you guys ever do type to learn? You type so slow. Oh, and he says, as from specific examples to general principles in the first, as being representative of a shift from common sense to philosophy proper.
Okay, so I found the thing. So, saying popular means pertaining to ordinary, not very educated people. So that's what he means by the word popular. So that's why in the first section he uses examples, I guess.
Oh, by the way, did you guys catch in the second section him being super racist?
What?
Actually, where was that? Okay, let me see. It's when he's giving some. I'm sorry, this is so irrelevant and out of order. But let me find it in the one I uploaded to you guys so you can like see it yourself.
Okay, Control F N IG.
No. He does say niggardly. He does use that word.
Actually, the control F didn't find it.
Let me see. Is it not? Oh, yeah. Okay, so it's for you guys. It's on page 25. He sees that a system of nature conforming with this. When he's talking about laziness.
Oh, good.
But now he asks whether his maxim of neglecting his gifts, agreeing as it does with his liking for idle amusement, also agrees with what is called duty. He sees that a system of nature conforming with this law could indeed exist, with everyone behaving like the islanders of the South Pacific, letting their talents rust and devoting their lives merely to idleness, indulgence, and baby making. In short,
right, I forgot about. Holy shit!
You know what? I got the point he was making in that section, but completely missed the self-specific part.
Yeah, well, because in my translation it's a little different. It says the way, oh shit, where is it now? Because it says it's just written more differently. Where as with the South Sea Islanders is in parentheses in the middle of the sentence, so it's just much more obvious.
Oh boy.
Oh, Malcolm says, "Sure, you think this is racist?" Oh boy.
You should have seen Pascal. You think this is racist?
You should have seen what? You should read his anthropology lectures. Oh my god.
What's crazy about his anthropology, from what I heard, he never even visited the people he talked about. He just sat in Germany and was this is what they're like.
Almost all anthropology.
No empiricism, boys. No empiricism.
Yeah, exactly. But that's super. Sorry, that's a super duper tangent.
To get back to the primary text, Kant can actually defeat himself with this argument because he does say that he thinks that one of the moral duties is to be happy, and laziness is part of that, because if you always think, then you will be incapable of thinking because you will overload yourself.
Well,
to an extent, laziness is part of the moral duty to be happy.
I mean, I think that in this sense, he's not saying you should never, you should always be productive, but it's just that you cannot will it to be a universal law for people to always be lazy. That's what he's saying. And yet again, he's not saying that, because he says right after that, but he can't possibly will that this should become a universal law of nature, or that it should be implanted in us by natural instinct. So it's even if you can think you wouldn't actively want things to be that way, even if you can imagine them being that way.
I mean, you could say that applies to reason as well, and to duty as well.
Say what?
You could say that applies to duty as well.
Malcolm says, does Sam have something to say about happiness as a maxim?
Happiness as a maxim? I didn't really indicate that I had something to say, but I think you might be recalling that I am a really hardcore utilitarian. I do. I have this note down here, actually, which says, let me find it exactly. So he gives this example, where he refers to, this is jumping only a little bit ahead, I think, where he refers to lying to get out of embarrassment, and how that's not universalizable, right? He's like, okay, if everyone lied when it suited their need, when it helped them not be embarrassed by something, and okay, I need to find words. If everyone did that in that situation, then in a situation where it was the only out, then that wouldn't be universalizable. But the problem is that that's not the principle on which they're acting. This is the problem with most of his arguments, actually. When he talks about whether or not something can be made into a universal law, so to speak, you can kind of cherry pick which principles you act by, in order to actually do an action, right? You could alternatively say that I could say that I could will it to be a universal maxim that I lie to get out of embarrassment when that lie does more overall has more overall utility than to not tell that lie, right? And that's
but the thing is, when you say that, you get into empiricism.
No, here's the thing. Kant even admits that maxims can be grounded in the empirical when stated.
And Milcom says what constitutes maxims is still a controversial topic among Kantians today, to be honest. So,
yeah. Okay.
Guys, you want to know something weird? I don't know how it happened, but for some reason in my control find search of the document, like now it says Italy when I never typed Italy. Like I don't know what happened. I feel like there's a ghost in my computer.
The woman from Italy.
I'm
glad at least one person got that.
I didn't get it. I have no idea.
Oh, you didn't?
No, I just laughed because I was like, oh, I don't know. I just laughed.
Nobody here knows who the woman from Italy is.
I know.
You're all losers.
Maybe.
Wait. Did you say you do or not?
Usually the loser is the minority. So if none of us know.
No, bro.
Okay. Anyway, so yeah, I think that in this cherry picking about what you consider part of the maxim when determining, like you can consider a certain action, right? But what you consider to be the principle of that action is completely a subjective matter, right? Does that make sense?
Yes, like you can see like how avoiding embarrassment might be the maxim that you're focusing on.
Avoiding an embarrassment is just one possible maxim.
The thing is,
act on.
Take
that particular action.
But you could focus on that. But what he's saying is like there can't be any exceptions to the lying thing. So even when you are embarrassed, like maybe embarrassment is another maxim, but like. I think elsewhere in his philosophy, there are hierarchies of duties, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely goes on to do a lot of construction later, which would certainly call the particular argument that I'm making here into question.
Guys,
but I also feel like the way he's presenting it here is kind of bullshit.
So I might be utilitarian as well, but I think I can make like a devil's advocate in like defense of Kant. So when you lie to avoid embarrassment, the end is to avoid embarrassment, not to lie. The lie is the means. However, when you tell the truth, the end can be to tell the truth. Which is why to tell the truth can be a maxim, but to lie cannot be. In that case, the maxim is to avoid embarrassment, not to lie. You can have like a universal law that everyone avoids embarrassment, but you can't have a universal law that everyone lies. Even though people might lie to avoid embarrassment. Make sense?
Kinda. I'll have to think about it more. I think we can kind of move
on. Another thing I had... Oh, sorry. Someone go ahead. Was someone going to say something? Don't. All right.
No. I thought I heard something too. So.
Yeah, I think it was Gaelic. I don't know. I thought I saw a green light like really quick on the Discord thing, but maybe he chickened out. Maybe I'm crazy too. It might not have been him. So like, I mean, but basically, so we were talking about like what a goodwill is. So like, a goodwill is not good because of what it affects or accomplishes, because of its fitness to attain some proposed end, but only because of its volition. That is, it is good in itself. And regarded for itself, it is to be valued incomparably higher than all that could merely be brought about by it in favor of some inclination. So basically that the goodwill is good in itself because it wills good things. I mean, we briefly touched on this and I think we moved on, but like, I guess I'm still not satisfied and thinking like,
What he's basically saying is that if reason is the highest faculty, Goodwill is the highest purpose because all the other inclinations don't require a rational being to be done. Like something without rationality can also, and without reason can also have inclinations. So to do things based on inclinations is inherently inferior to doing things because of pure reason, even if the outcomes are better, because again, it's not contingent upon the reason. In this case, it is actually like conditional, but it is the sort of conditional that Kant likes.
Okay.
No, it sounded sarcastic, but like that's what it sounds to me.
But I mean, but also, so then thinking like he says like later on, like usefulness or fruitlessness can neither add anything to this worth or take anything away from it. So like the idea that just like a goodwill without any ability to do anything at all is seen as still good, which I don't quite disagree with. And then Malcolm has said, I think this borrows from, I don't know what NE is. Am I stupid?
I also
Nicomachean.
Oh. And that
actually, I've never heard that word. Can somebody give me the TLDR
of Nicomachean ethics? It's like it's Aristotle.
Oh, okay.
Just virtue ethics.
Got it.
I think this borrows from the Nicomachean. This is what Malcolm said. I think this borrows from the Nicomachean ethics in that it deduces the absolute superiority of the goodwill from the fact that all good comes from it and is not good for the sake of anything else. That makes sense. Yeah.
Isn't Kant like flaming the ancient Greeks at some point early on in the work?
Isn't he what?
Flaming.
Oh.
For thinking that, like for agreeing with virtue ethics. A second.
He doesn't agree with virtue ethics.
Of course.
I mean, he does give a very intense critique of like it shouldn't matter what your inclinations are; it just matters what your will is.
Yeah.
I don't know. It seems like if you figure that all good comes from goodwill, then this very much presupposes the idea of what good is.
I mean, I think that's the thing. Like, I think.
So I found the part. So it says, so it's like on page 5. Moderation in emotions and passions, self-control, and calm deliberation not only are good in many ways, seem even to constitute part of the person's inner worth, and they were indeed unconditionally valued by the ancients. However, they are very far from being good without qualification. Without the principles of a good will, they can become extremely bad. Example, and then whatever. Basically, he's saying why Stoicism cannot be a maxim. This is how I read this.
Because an evil person could use those virtues for evil, basically. Like, just having virtues, like, you could use them to evil ends. It's not like, right?
So because you can use virtues both for good and for evil ends, that means that virtues that are inside of virtue ethics aren't ends.
Yeah.
Of themselves.
Actually, I do like this. I think what he's trying to say, as far as I can interpret it, is that in order for morality to even matter, more or less, this is kind of an informal way to put it, but in order for morality to even matter, actors have to have goodwill, otherwise they won't act in accordance with it. Does that make sense?
Say that one more time. I'm so sorry, and then I'm going to read Malcolm's comment. But
yeah, in order for morality to even matter in any way, actors have to have goodwill. Otherwise, no moral actions are taken except when they align incidentally.
I think I kind of see. I mean, it has to do with the fact that there's a choice to pursue. Like, there's like a volition or an intention to do one thing over another.
There's kind of preconditions. So, like, for morality to actually be for moral things to be undertaken, that's preconditioned on goodwill, which makes goodwill good in itself.
I see. Yeah. But Milcom says from the, I'm guessing, Stanford Encyclopedia, the basic idea, as Kant describes it in the Groundwork, is that what makes a good person good is his possession of a will that is in a certain way determined by or makes its decisions on the basis of the moral law. The idea of a good will is supposed to be the idea of one who is committed only to make decisions that she holds to be morally worthy and who takes moral considerations in themselves to be conclusive reasons for guiding her behavior. Action out of a sense to act morally, however bad that judgment might be, is a good will. Okay. And then Cryo typed, well, as utilitarians, me and Samyad would naturally have an ever greater hate boner for virtue ethics than for deontology, so it only makes sense that we agree with Kant here. Okay.
Oh yeah. I have a huge hate boner for virtue ethics.
I like them.
What?
Do we have a virtue ethicist here?
I mean, I don't know enough about ethics to say for sure, but I'm drawn to it.
Virtue ethics is for people who don't want to make arguments and so make all of their shit wishy-washy.
Okay.
I call myself an intuitive deontologist, and I'm very wishy-washy, so... Anyways. Nothing wrong with being a little wishy-washy. Everything is wishy-washy. But that doesn't matter. So this is something that bugged me, just me personally. Milcom says, imagine not being a naturalist, shaking my head. All right, yeah.
I know, right? Like, isn't everyone a naturalist?
Can we define naturalist?
Man, okay, that's hard because there are kind of two ways to go about that. One makes a really arbitrary, natural, artificial distinction, and the other one just says that which is natural is good, and therefore everything's good.
Most people who would call themselves naturalists in the philosophical sense are not talking about the second form.
I think.
So what's the first form?
Yeah.
Someone want to define it, please?
For me, it's more like naturalism is the idea that everything arises from natural causes or emerges from natural causes, and there's no other origin for stuff.
Is that
Is that a moral philosophy?
Is it the rigorous philosophical?
It's not a moral philosophy. It's more like a metaphysical.
We didn't ask for your personal feeling of what it meant. I was asking for the actual someone who knows. I mean, maybe
the dictionary
you do know.
definition is the philosophical belief that everything arises from natural properties and causes, and supernatural or spiritual explanation. So basically, this definition, I would say that naturalism is something like non-dualism.
Wait, did anybody disagree with that at any point? Did Kant or did we?
He doesn't speak about that in this work.
Well, what he talks about that bugged me was when he says so I'm just gonna read from my text rather than try to look it up, but it's not too far away. It's near the beginning of section 1. Actually, I'll find it. It's probably.
I've noticed the page counts are basically identical.
It's so annoying that this doesn't have I forget what they're called, but the section numbers, like the 4:395, 396 for each paragraph or whatever. It doesn't have that in your version. I'm so stupid. Anyways, let me find it. In your. Okay, so at page 6, the first column, last paragraph, but I'm going to be reading mine, not yours. Sorry. In the natural constitution of an organized being, that is, when constituted purposefully for life, we assume as a principle that there will be found in it no instrument for some end other than that what is also most appropriate to that end and best adapted to it.
Oh yeah, I have a note about this.
That is such fucking bullshit.
That's cringe. But thing is, we only understood evolution actually works in the last 40 years. It's more pertaining to the genes than the individuals. That's why we have this notion of the selfish gene, not the selfish individual. So it makes sense that Kant had that misconception. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it does, but it's just because he's suggesting that reason must exist for a purpose, and that since reason obviously isn't. Okay, wait. Here, let me write it out.
Okay, here's what really bothers me about this. This isn't just wrong. He also takes it as an axiom, which I assume means it's really important.
Well,
I mean, it's definitely wrong.
In my translation, it doesn't say we take it as an axiom. He doesn't say axiom.
Okay.
He said he says we assume as a principle. That's what he says.
Okay. That's a little bit less bad.
Yeah, but like the thing is, like he takes this, and so assuming that the traits that are appropriate or best adapted for each organism. And then, so like, since he claims reason is bad for preservation and that instinct is better. That's also fucking bullshit. Like, he claims like instinct is superior for survival, and it's like, instinct is only superior for survival, like, for a deer in the fucking wild, but for like a human being in a human world with really complex society, like, instinct is shit. Like, instinct is the reason, like, people have anxiety attacks, like, because, like, they forgot to turn in their homework. Like,
yeah, instinct is not helpful for survival outside of the scenarios in which that instinct evolved, which we are not in.
Yeah, they should.
Malcolm's being an asshole. Malcolm says that's not really important to his point.
Yeah, it is clear though. Section like presupposes a design.
This is just beautiful. I'm loving it.
This meeting got a slow start, but it's picking up.
Malcolm says that's not important to his point.
Said, and it's so annoying. And then Malcolm says,
it's just the way you said it. It's fucking great.
I know. I think it's because Malcolm didn't get his fucking mic to work, and so Malcolm has to rely on my interpretation. I said it was going to be a dramatic reading of Malcolm's comment.
Fair enough.
He says, I think he's more referring to the philosopher who meditates so much that he forgets happiness altogether, or something like that. Wait, what?
I actually don't get what you mean by that either. I was waiting for freedom to interpret it, but
but freedom cannot interpret it.
No. I just realized I'm freedom, and I am one of the laws of freedom, even though Malcolm says we will. I am one of the major. Never mind. I don't know. Can we just delete that? Oh no, he's leaving. Oh, bye, Malcolm.
Oh,
just kidding.
Did you piss Malcolm off too much?
No, I know he had to go because like I remember him saying he was like only available from like Eastern Standard Time 1 to 3 p.m. So that's why he moved it up. But oh well, now that he's gone, oh my god, Malcolm fucking sucks. Malcolm is so annoying.
Right, what a bitch.
Oh my god.
Dude.
Yeah,
I got his name auto-corrected to Milk.
Huh?
Got his name auto-corrected to Milk. Alright, fix, no problem, no harm, no foul.
Okay. Okay. Oh gosh, it's so ugly. Sorry, I turned on my light on my desk and it's just horrible. I hate it. It's so yellow. Hate it. Okay. So then.
Hey, does Milcom speak English natively? Are they aware that there's cum in that name?
I assumed it was real because sometimes his status is jacking off. So.
Yeah, I assumed it was intentional.
I'm pretty sure it's intentional.
Just making sure.
Yeah. So yeah.
Anything can go through a mail if you're brave enough.
All right. Let us continue.
So later on, he's saying basically, that like the purpose of our life isn't happiness. Like he gives this critique of hedonism.
Fucking course he does.
Yeah. And so he says like that we see like real people, like they tend to, we see that we must admit instead that these judgments have as their covert basis the idea of another and far worthier purpose of one's existence, to which therefore, and not to happiness, reason is properly destined. And to which, as supreme condition, the private purpose of the human being must for the most part defer. So like there's this ultimate purpose outside of happiness, outside of everything, and it's like solely about reason, like striving to choose to do something over another thing. Sorry, it's a little farther down. It's
okay, so something
7, top, very first like section at the top.
Sorry,
But
what page?
go ahead.
I didn't hear
7.
you. Okay.
Cryo, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm gonna like backtrack a bit here, but I see something on page 6 which I find important, which is what we find in fact is that the more a cultivated reason devotes itself to the enjoyment of life. Page 6, yes, the second column, second paragraph. What we find in fact is that the more a cultivated reason devotes itself to the enjoyment of life and happiness, more the person falls short of true contentment. So what this implies is that the way he defines happiness does not include contentment, which would go against hedonistic definition of happiness, but it wouldn't go against the utilitarian definition of happiness.
I don't know, because I mean, I'm not going, maybe I'm combining things from other sections, but he was saying how, like, when you try to find happiness with your reason, you have to think, okay, like, what's going to make me happy? Like, oh, I could be rich, but like, it's all, I think he uses, like, he says it's all contingent on externalities, like, of what can make you happy. And it's not like it's not like the thing in itself provides contentment. It's like you have to seek out things that you think might make you happy, but they also might not make you happy. They might, you don't know that it'll actually like bring you that happiness.
Yeah, to me it seems like what he's saying is that when you are searching to be happy because you have respect for the law, that the maxim of you have to be happy is good, that's where the contentment lies. Not in happiness as like a byproduct of something. Like when you seek happiness because you respect the universalized law that says you ought to be happy, in that case it's not a byproduct, but otherwise it is. Even if you get happiness from being rich, for example, you're in accordance to the maxim, but you're not like, doing it because of the maxim.
Yes.
Like this is a common theme in
yes,
his,
exactly,
like,
definitely.
So this is a common theme across this work, that he always makes the stark contrast and difference between in accordance to and because of, or in accordance to and from. He would say that anything that like gives happiness as a byproduct is an example of a case where you're acting in accordance to. That is an inferior type of like morality.
Interesting.
Okay, so then if we continue moving down, like later on is where he brings up the concept of duty.
Oh.
So we start getting into the key terms here, folks. Oh shit, I said I was gonna have a quiz, but I wasn't even ready.
So you could have a quiz, but you would fail the quiz.
I would fail the quiz. I would definitely fail the quiz.
And everyone would fail the quiz because she would be correcting it and not knowing the answers.
So he does certainly define duty, right?
Yes.
Like he talks about duty as something is done from duty if it is not done from somebody's particular ends, more or less. Like, I don't think that's exactly how he defines it, but that's the impression I got from what he was saying.
Okay, so he actually gives an exact definition. So go to page 10.
Oh boy. That's like 3 pages after he introduces it.
No, like, on page 10 he defines it. So he says this. have a duty means to be required to act in a certain way out of respect for law.
Okay, got it.
So he actually defines it specifically.
Okay. That lines up with my intuition about that, yeah.
Do any of you guys have any duties that you feel are duties? Like, I feel like with the utilitarian, like, isn't it, in a sense, like, I guess I don't know the terminology very well, but like it's like a duty to maximize the wealth. I mean, I don't know.
I guess if you if you phrase like change duties to like consider that to be like what is morally good to do. Although depending on your version of I've suddenly forgotten the word for my own philosophy. Can you help me quickly? The thing you were just asking about.
Utilitarianism?
Literally. Thank you. Wow, I need to sleep better or something. Holy shit. Anyway, yeah, depending on your version of utilitarianism, it might not be a duty as opposed to just simply a moral good. Like, it could be morally good to do something to maximize happiness or utility, however you define it, but morally neutral not to. So it really depends, I guess.
Yeah, it's like, I also think that, the way he defines this specifically, to have a duty is to be required to act in a certain way out of respect for the law. It seems like it's not a translation thing, that, like he defines law in a very clear way, and it seems like, from a utilitarian perspective, you definitely might not consider adhering to utilitarian ethics as a law in the same way that Kant considers the categorical imperative to be.
And really quick, sorry, Milcom just wrote something. I'm going to read it. Just to clarify my earlier point, while it is true that modern human society values reasoning skill a lot, and of course that it helped our ancestors to survive as well as they did, even today, the philosopher is seen as being so engrossed in his inquiry that he does not have a satisfying experience of life, for everything in his life is analyzed to death. Additionally, the common conception of the philosopher is as a man with his head in the clouds, unconcerned and in fact ill-equipped for life on the ground. And then cryoliberal this seems to paint a very good picture between the distinction between intelligent/enlightened, common sense, and philosophy. I like it. And I just want to say, Milcom, you're very sexist for saying that philosopher has to be a man with his head in the clouds. It could be a woman with her head in the clouds.
It could be a non-binary person.
Exactly.
There is no reason for it to necessarily be a man.
Milcom's
with his
not
head
even
in the clouds.
on. Milcom can't even hear. Oh, damn it.
Oh shit, you're right. It doesn't even.
Oh man. At some point in there, somebody used an example where it was like, oh, she was like this. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Just don't be a grammatical bitch and use singular they.
Well, it's just from that's like
singular
the
they is has always been a valid thing.
But
like,
guys,
fucking...
guys, that's just the standard in like philosophy these days. It's like they're using she more. That's just a thing that they're doing. It's standard practice.
But why?
They is fine. No, they is fine. I'm just saying, like, that's just why they're just doing that. Anyways, I actually was thinking. Yeah, I know. I was just thinking, maybe this. So this is really difficult. Like, I think also I am less prepared than I wanted to be, and I am sorry for that. But this was like very ambitious, and it's good that we did it. But I thought maybe we can step back from the text for a second and have everybody kind of go over their idea of morality, and then go from there. Like everybody going down the line. That sounds good. I mean, I feel like that would be. I think that would. Yeah, I feel like maybe that. Yeah, let's do that. Alphabetical order. Cryo, you're up.
Okay, alphabetical order? What the fuck? Okay.
First of all, I will have to separate meta-ethics from my ethics, and
you're such a copycat. You're copying that from me.
And then I will have to like re-include my meta-ethics into my ethics, and I'll explain why when the point comes. my meta-ethics is that I am like a moral anti-realist and specifically a descriptive egoist. The sense that I always think that humans, as the only beings with rationality that we have discovered so far, always seek to maximize their own utility. Regardless of what that is, because it can differ from person to person. And
wait, maximize your own utility? What?
Maximize your own utility. As in, even when you're acting altruistically instead of egoistically, you're still maximizing your utility because.
What do you mean by utility? Because I think of like usefulness.
So
utility is whatever you value, generally speaking.
Okay. Okay.
So the way I would specifically define it is whatever you want to do to squeeze reality into the possible worlds that are most advantageous to your goals. And those are necessarily like goals.
Yeah. I think from the perspective of descriptive egoism, which is a great term, by the way. Like you said that, and I just instantly got what it was because it's something I've encountered before too. I think from the perspective of descriptive egoism, I think there are a lot of cases where people don't do a very effective job at maximizing utility for themselves, and they don't even they actively run into situations where they're doing a poor job at that and they don't change their behavior. So I think it would probably be a little bit do you get what I'm saying? I think it would be more useful to say that when people think about it really hard, by default they're egoists in that way. But like,
I mean, even when people think about it really hard, they might fail because Kant did this as well when he said that when there's a fire and you try to get out of the building, the duty part only comes in because other people happen to get out of the building, but not because you happen to get out of the building. If you think about it even harder than Kant in that example, the fact that
which generally isn't very difficult.
The fact that you open the door to get out allows you to get out of doors in the future. So it's like predictive of future behavior. And to finish up my wrap on ethics, that's my metaphysical thinking. And then for my ethical thinking, I would say that I will follow something that I personally call FPU, as in finite principle utilitarianism. The reason why I use this term is because I actually do use principles. I don't hate the idea of imperatives. I just mold it with anti-realism. The way I think about it is like this. So if you only think about the consequences of an action and you don't consider why the actor did it, that is stupid because all actions are done by actors. When you analyze the reasons or the principles that stand at the grounds for why an actor did an action, you are able to deduce his future behavior, predict his future behavior from that. The way I usually do ethical calculations and the way I usually do things like harm reduction ethical questions is I assign a flat and always finite moral worth to principles, and then I add that into the consequences. So, for example, for me, murder is inherently wrong, but there is such a thing as sufficiently good consequences for the finite amount of utility inside the principle to be overcome. And I don't just apply this for murder, I apply this to a lot of principles. I apply it to honesty as well, I apply it to lying as well, theft as well. You can apply it to all of them. And there are principles with negative value and principles with positive value. But here's the thing, and here's where the meta-ethics kicks in. I think that those flat values are supposed to be flat and finite for every single person, but I don't expect every single person to have the same numbers for all of them. And that's where the anti-realism kicks in. So I am able to say that a certain thing from the principles and intent of the actors and from the consequences seems to come out mathematically as moral or immoral to me, but I think it's perfectly compatible in my system with someone else the calculation in the same way, but not with the same flat modifiers to come to a different conclusion.
Very well thought out.
That generally seems to
Oh
make
boy,
sense.
there are actually some really good ideas in there. I'm definitely going to steal some of that.
All right, so I guess it's me. As I said before, and I feel so silly. I just came up with this name. It's not a very good name, of my intuitive deontology. So as you might guess, I think that, there are just things that are right in and of themselves. It's right, like certain things, like, and I'm talking about me personally, but I think this is just how I see this as how it works, where I feel there are actions that are good in and of themselves. Like, it's just right to do certain things. However, I don't think it's like something like Kant said that can just be like rationally deduced, or I don't think it's clear at all. And in fact, the reason I say intuitive is because it doesn't come from, it just usually it'll come situationally. I'll just have like a very strong feeling about what the right thing to do is. And it doesn't feel right because it will bring about some positive result, just because I feel extremely strongly like that thing is right in and of itself. And I see that I can sort of pick apart and look at the isolated incidences of like these moments and these moral feelings that I've had, and maybe describe, general principles that might explain those moral feelings. For instance, like if I see somebody, on the street, like fall. That's a horrible example. And I think because I've had some evolutions in my thought processes about things, but like one time, my friend had some dude who was really weird, but like he was very clearly in emotional distress, and I felt like at first I was like, who gives a fuck? Like, kick this guy out. Like, who cares? But I then had this like feeling of like, oh wait, I should help him. Like, I've felt really bad before, and he's clearly feeling really bad right now. Even if I can't help, I have to try and help. And it felt like I would not be me if I didn't do that. Like, I would be denying some core part of my identity if I did that. And so I think of morality as a form of identity. It's like a part. We see it as this part of ourselves that if we violate that morality, it's a sort of like death of the self. And that's why you can think of like the phrase like, oh, I'd rather die than kill my kid. What does that mean? Like, we see violating that code of conduct as a sort of death of ourselves.
And that's definitely like a reasonable way to put it. Basically, what you're doing, to tie it back to Kant, is that you're sort of like doing deontology from an egoist mindset, and he's doing it, or at least trying and failing to do it outside of an egoist mindset.
Yeah.
But like,
I'm sorry.
Possible argument that could be made against that is that we're taking it as an axiom that the death of the self is a bad enough thing to not be worth it to undertake it in order for some goal, Like in some situations, you could say that doing something so heinous that it would destroy your identity is still nevertheless worth it, because it would do more good than the fact that your identity.
But I'm not trying to do more good. I'm trying to do what I think is. I mean, because there. I mean, that nothing. The violating my moral principles would be doing something really that I think would be really, really bad. Like, it wouldn't be possible. Sorry.
Yeah, I do think I have a little bit more of a concise critique here. Concise.
I just want to say I'm sorry I explained it very, very badly and it was horrible. So sorry.
So it does seem to me like the way you construct your morality is like it necessarily leans most on emotion, right?
Yeah.
And I think self-admittedly, but the problem then is that the same action could have different moral characteristics depending only upon what you consider emotionally about that situation, not depending on the actual content of the situation. For instance, if you happened to spend a lot of time thinking about how another person might feel in regards to an action that you take, then you might conclude that it is a bad action for you to take. But if you spend a lot of time thinking about how you would feel, then you might conclude that it's a good action to take. Do you get what I'm saying?
The answer is no, but my brain isn't processing it very well. You could try to say that one more time. If I don't get it, I'm
okay. So what I'm saying is that because this fundamentally relies on emotions which are specific, it relies on emotions which aren't just specific to a given situation. They're also reliant on what you consider about that situation, right?
Wait, what's the difference between a situation and what I consider about it? All I know about a situation is what I consider about that situation.
Well, no, because emotional consideration is vulnerable not just to the situation itself, but also to how you consider it.
But the situation itself, I only see it through how I consider it.
What I'm trying to say is that given the same situation, you can, given the exact same situation, you can come to two completely different moral conclusions, which you would say are, from your perspective, would both be valid, which isn't necessarily a contradiction, but seems really wonky.
It is. So here's the thing. I mean, I think I don't think you're wrong, and it is a little sketch. I mean, you could say that it seems like I could just I could have if I was in a different mood or whatever, I could encounter an identical situation and have a completely different moral feeling about it or moral response to it. That's possible. I don't think I haven't. It doesn't seem to me, and this is so vague and self-reported and not empirical or not concrete really, but it doesn't seem to me that what I feel strongly about morally changes dramatically. And I think that the thing that's most important is that I think that it is worth just striving to do what you think is right, no matter what. And that's like the core thing. It's just the issue is I don't know concretely what is right. I don't think anybody can come up with a clear definition for what is right. All we have is what we feel is right. And yeah, that's vague and complicated, but it does seem to me like if you observe people and their moral feelings, you could sort of collect data and establish, okay, these are the things people tend to strongly feel about. There's probably going to be a strong pattern. And yet again, it would be a descriptive set of things that people care about. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of there's apparently 5 different values that all people kind of have, or it's respect for authority, purity, fairness, stuff like that. Has anybody heard of that?
Yeah,
I have not heard of that. It sounds like one of those psychology things that isn't actually a real thing that somebody just made up.
I just made this shit up. Oh wait! What sounds like it's made up? Sorry.
The 5 values thing.
I think it was just an anthropological account of seeing what cultures tend to look at.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, that's fair enough. As a descriptive thing. Okay, I'm down.
Yeah.
I wish. So okay, so. Wait, what? I'm trying to find what they are. Because I know it was there a list of them because it's bothering me. I don't know Someone else has heard of it. Do they know?
I don't know what it's called.
Whatever. It doesn't matter. Anyways, and I think the main thing is like, I don't think the consequences matter. I think it's about the intent. I do agree with that. It's about the intent to do good, to do what is right. And the other thing is my acknowledgement that I don't think there is any concrete, like, truly right thing like that. I can see how other people might come to different conclusions than me about it, or might feel differently than me, but my gut instinct suggests that most people do tend to agree, just because we're all human beings. We're all, like, most of us are pro-social. Like, there are core aspects, like, of things that we feel to be right. And it's not that, yet again, it's not that those are right in and of themselves, but it's like you will be happier in a sense, or more content if you follow through on those things that you believe to be right. I don't know. It's very vague. It's not very systematic.
I'm definitely having an interesting time developing a way to, because like the way you're putting this is definitely causing me to feel like I need to justify an axiomatic system of morality. So I'm having an interesting time figuring out how to do that. We'll get to me eventually.
Oh, good. Can't wait.
Eventually.
Don't fucking open it.
Before we go to Gal, is it fine if I make like one more final statement on this?
I'm here.
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, you just in time. We're talking about our personal moralities.
What's up, Disposable?
Hello.
The first three letters of our name are identical.
Are they?
It
Oh, yeah.
So it's not an issue.
Okay.
So the one final thing I would have to say, and then we can get to the next person, is that it feels to me that when you juxtapose what we ought to do onto what we feel is right, that we are like arbitrarily restricting ourselves to the things we have to consider. Like, you can make a very solid and even rigorous argument for why we feel is right is something among the things that we have to consider. Just saying that is the only thing we should consider just feels like arbitrarily restricted. Like, it might even be the correct thing that you should restrict yourself to, but like just saying it and not why feels like it's incomplete, even though, like, okay, it feels like it's potentially incomplete, but it doesn't prove that it's incomplete, if that makes any sense, or complete.
Was that... I sort of missed that because I was looking up the values thing. What could you...
I don't know if I can summarize it shorter. I would probably
Just
be
say
saying
it
the
again.
same thing again.
Let's say it again.
Okay, so I think that when you state that what you ought to do is only what you feel is right, you are arbitrarily restricting the horizon of what can be considered for morality. And while you can make a very solid argument that what you feel is right is something that you must consider when you consider what you ought to do, it is incomplete and arbitrary to say that is the only thing.
Okay.
And
So
it's not necessarily, I'm not necessarily saying that there are other things for sure. I'm just saying that feels like something that is not like trivial and should be like demonstrated or at least like defended in some way.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
hey.
I guess...
Sorry, just for the record, I haven't tested it much yet, but I think I got the bot finished that would actually just display
If
text.
you were making a bot during this discussion, that
Nope.
means you weren't really paying attention.
No, I was paying lots of attention. And also coding.
If I was a teacher and you were my student, I would send you to the hall for not paying attention in class.
I would find that incredibly rude and say that it probably violates your
No.
morality system.
Honestly, if I was
Because
actually
I
a
would say that it
teacher-
violates your morality system because it doesn't intuitively feel right to me.
Well, no, it would say it might have violated your morality system. But I just wanted to say, I think the emphasis is not on the emphasis for me with morality is that morality is an activity in self-reflection, and it's not
It's not like rules.
Yeah, and I don't think
It's not a decision-making process.
Yeah, I don't think that there is a objective morality. I don't think it exists at all. It's just a characteristic of people that we feel like there are some things that are really, really important for us to do. And that's what I think kind of like think about what morality really is. And I think personally that it's valuable to go through that exercise of, considering, what is maybe the most important thing of all. And that's what, morality is. It's the thing that's like most important of all to us.
Yeah. I agree pretty much entirely.
But I did find that it's like moral foundations, I think it is. And it's actually, there's 6 of them. And the reason I think it got big is because it sort of like explains some differences between, liberals and conservatives, no 2D axis cringe, right? But,
axes are only 1D, excuse me.
okay. Yeah, you're right. You're totally right. You're totally right. Sorry. Whatever.
I would send you out in the hall for that.
That's fine. I don't want to, I don't care. You send me out in the hall, then I just go home or go get ice cream or something.
Imagine leaving school to just get ice cream.
I mean,
come back.
Why not?
True.
Oh, it's so sad though because they locked down my high school. Like it used to be like really, you could just like go outside and hang out, and like we didn't really leave campus like or anything. But then now like you can't even just go outside at study hall. Apparently, like that's what I've heard from people now. They just totally locked it down because of like
You're
safety.
in high school?
No.
Thanks.
I graduated high school.
What?
I graduated high school in 2012. Oh man. Yeah. No. But anyways, so the 6 values are care and harm is like the first, or I guess it's like saying like them in pairs. So like care and harm. The second is fairness and cheating. Third is loyalty and betrayal. Fourth is authority and subversion. And the 5th is sanctity/degradation. Oh, and this is, and then the 6th is liberty, oppression. And so
Wait.
like for.
But the only one of those axes that had 2 things that there are people who consider good is like authority and subversion, and that's like it, right?
Yeah, that might be about his wording of it.
I mean, I disagree with this entire premise of trying to quantify and graph morals in this way because there's so many other avenues somebody could go to have moral opinions than these questions.
This is a description of what tends to be like core values across like all of humanity. Like it's not like a prescription for how it actually is. It's just saying this. It's just a
tendency. These tend to be the popular ones. That makes sense.
Everybody seems to value these, but like in different amounts. And like there is a correlation, or apparently a correlation with political beliefs. For instance, an authoritarian would tend to value authority more. Environmentalists would.
Can you throw a link to this in chat, please?
This is like the sketchiest. It does not look like a very like reliable source. I'm not gonna lie to you, but. I'll just put it in because it is the ones I've seen. Like, I'm so sorry. This is not like.
Oh boy! Look at all of that text.
Oh, you know why though? It's because for some reason Wikipedia isn't loading when I clicked on it. It's moral foundations theory. That's why.
Okay, so are these all spectra upon which certain individuals and certain cultures fucking cumulatively fall?
Oh wait, no, that one's like a little bit weird. So actually, I think that one's weird. It's like harm, fairness, authority, and group impurity, which is like sort of similar to what that is.
I don't know. But it seems like the only ones on the there are pairs and there's one on the left and one on the right. It seems like there's only one on the right that can even be generally considered good at all by anybody. Does that make sense? Like, what is this even doing? Like, I don't see the
Oh, man. This study seems too intellectual for me,
okay.
Freedom Baby.
Sorry. I'm sorry. I mean, it wasn't trying
It's useful. It's funny. I
didn't want to get into this. It just came up as like an example of how I think that there are sort of similarities in the moralities across like everybody, even if it does seem arbitrary. Like there are these like commonalities that I think are measurable, and so but that doesn't really matter in the sense because I'm super duper individualist anyways. Like I don't give a fuck about like whether or not my morality is like valid to other people. Like I just see it as an exercise I do and I find value in it, and I think other people probably do the same. I don't fucking know.
Okay. We had a thing we were going to do. Can we underail it?
No,
there is no underrailing.
Say something, so I don't care what anybody else has to say now.
There is no underrailing.
I do need to go in like 10 minutes, though.
Oh, who has to go? Then they should do theirs.
Something disposable has to go.
Oh, yeah.
Yours is
like, it's about comfort, right? It's like
what you're
comfortable with, that's your thing?
Well,
I remember.
Yeah, morality. Okay, this is... People morality is like a tool for people in order to just find patterns in what they are and aren't socially comfortable with. And I don't even think it's fair to say morality is that's how people get their values. It's, there are certain patterns, certain tendencies, like there's certain ideas that are expressed by different events in life, and those expressions can carry emotional weight for people, and that emotional weight kind of correlated to those situations manifests itself in people's value systems, which then determines somebody's moral beliefs. I completely agree with what Freedom Baby was saying about the morality being mainly a tool for self-reflection. I don't think having morality be like a set of prescriptive rules under what I just said, that it's really just an extension of emotional beliefs, seems like a kind of a contradiction, because you can't dictate what you feel. You can try to make your actions in accordance with those emotions, which is why people tend to act in ways that they think are moral. Sorry. But you can't prescribe it. To me, morality is useful as a concept just because it lets us talk about our values in a more universally understandable way. And it's mainly just a tool for communication. And as you said, self-reflection, then like a concrete, like ethical system.
Yeah, because I mean, the experience of feeling something is like of morality. Like the experience of morality is something important, or something that determines our behavior. Is like almost a universal human experience. Like obviously there are exceptions, but
so like the main thing I would say against that view of morality is that I think that the contradiction you brought up is not completely, but in some part linguistic. Because you're like the contradiction between morality arising from like the reflection of each person or what their value, and then you see that that's contradictive with having like prescriptive ethics, right?
Prescriptive, yeah.
But like the problem there is not that they're prescriptive. The problem there is not that they're prescribed; it's that they're prescriptive. And in English, it's kind of funny because like prescribed and prescriptive don't actually mean the same thing.
Yeah.
Like prescriptive implies that they come before the reflection. That doesn't necessarily have to be the case. For example, if your system is not prescriptive, that doesn't mean it has to be descriptive. It can be postscriptive. Basically, what this means is that you can acknowledge that like the personal individual reflection of like your own values comes first. then, because people can talk about their own morality and their own values, you can then do an aggregate of that, and based on that aggregate, you can make rules. And those rules are not prescriptive because they acknowledge that the reflection comes first, but they're not guidelines, and they're not descriptive either because they do have normative power.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
That's a really good distinction.
I misused the word. Sorry about that. And I do think you're right about what you said at the end, because more like understanding those patterns isn't just an end to itself. That can actually help you make decisions. Like if I know that,
force your decisions upon others.
Yeah. And this might go without saying, but just since it was brought up earlier, this process can't really be applied objectively because you need an observer in order for these emotions to exist. And in the absence of observers, you don't. It's not an intrinsic property of any situation. It's a property of the experience of it. And so I wouldn't really call it objective at all.
Guys, I just want to also know, like, I think this is, I love, like, that we're reading this context, and if you're interested, like, there is another sort of, like, text by a Kant scholar called The Sources of Normativity, which is really, really interesting, and it's also way easier to read because it's by someone, from this fucking century, so, a nice way to, like,
imagine reading modern philosophy.
Imagine thinking modern philosophy meant contemporary philosophy.
Shut the fuck
up.
Imagine using "shut the fuck up" as an argument.
Shut the fuck up is like the best argument.
Honestly,
isn't that basically
like
having
unambiguous definition?
Guys, imagine saying "imagine" over and over again. Guys,
imagine saying "imagine" all over again.
Guys,
imagine like continuing this fucking meme, like just ad infinitum.
No. Guys,
imagine not needing to leave in 2 minutes.
I know, right?
Guys, this is really important. Imagine all the people living for today.
God fucking damn it, get out of here.
Imagine all the people having actually read chapter 3.
Yeah, I know, right? Imagine having read chapter 3.
We weren't supposed to. Imagine having read chapter 2. Like, get a life.
Dude, imagine having gotten past the premise. Like, come on.
Okay.
Imagine having more than 4 people in the voice call like we had last time.
Imagine forgetting that you don't actually need to read all of part 2, and then getting up an hour early and fucking listening to a YouTube video at double speed.
Seriously, why are there so few people? Like, I had, like, another thing I had to go to, but I can't imagine that that's, like, for everybody.
No, for most people, we're just bad and procrastinate a lot. Like normal people.
Oh, so they just didn't join? Okay. Because of that?
Well, I don't know. I think...
Oh, yeah, like people that just didn't come? Oh, no, that's weird. I don't know what's up with those people. They're just bad and we hate them.
Yeah. Alright, I was gone for a few minutes. Where are we now? What is the actual progression?
Oh, nothing.
Imagine, like, not knowing what was going on in the conversation.
I know, right?
I actually do need to head out. I was just dropping by. That was fun.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I will be there next time.
I will
be there next time.
Coherently talk about Kant more next time.
Oh, good.
Take care.
Yeah, see you guys.
Thanks for chilling.
Alright. So now we're on Gaelic.
Mm.
I'm assuming that's how you say it. I have no fucking clue.
It's close enough, I guess.
No, you should say it.
Galgalach.
That was not close.
I don't even know how to say the sounds that you just said.
Galgalach.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm trying to, like... No, it doesn't matter. Anyways.
Galak?
Galach? I don't know.
Galach.
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 I feel like I'm trying to hock a loogie. That's what I was gonna say, but I thought
Yeah,
that was
it's
gross.
good.
And I just said it, guys.
Okay, just say your
You
head.
could just say.
Hello?
You could just say Galach.
Or I could just say gal.
What if we
Yeah.
just
Hey,
call you
gal.
Gulag?
Yeah, there.
This will work fine.
Anyways, what is your morality? And it better be good.
Yeah, you'll
He's
be
actually
disappointed.
chaotic neutral. Sorry.
My D&D character is.
I literally took one of those dumb alignment test things online for fun, and I really hoped that I would get chaotic good, and I got chaotic neutral.
At one point, like a couple of years ago, when I was different, I got.
When I was
like,
different.
I think I got like neutral evil. Like,
Well,
Nice.
it was
My
like
girlfriend
messed up.
got chaotic evil. I love
Oh
her
my
so
God.
much.
Wow.
It's beautiful.
Playing chaotic characters is fun and all, but have you ever DM'd for chaotic parties?
that would be.
Oh.
Makes you want to
pretty-
die.
Okay, let's get back on topic. Sorry, I
Yes,
threw
yes.
that way.
Yes. So yeah, I guess. I mean, hearing everyone else speak, I guess my morality isn't very well developed at all. But I guess I'm some sort of virtue ethicist, in the sense that I think there could be practices developed over time which help develop good character, which enables people to make good judgments, and that it doesn't necessarily have to do with good outcomes, although that's obviously desirable. But like I could imagine there being really no good outcomes or like inconsequential outcomes, but you're still doing something because it's the right thing to do. And I guess that's.
So, do you think that there are clear virtues?
Like, what is an example of a virtue?
So like, I wouldn't say they're clear in that you can like figure them out and then that's it. But I think you could identify sort of general ideas or groups of practices. For example, courage, like identifying what could be courageous or what sort of character you should develop to enable you to have courage. And that could be like a process that you as an individual discover over time, and then as societies over time develop as well.
I am definitely partial to the approach to morality as developing character in order to help you face situations. Like that's an interesting approach, and I think it has value. But I don't know. It still feels wishy-washy.
What do you mean by wishy-washy?
Okay. I feel like there's a lot of value in having something concrete for when reflecting on morality, so that it gives you some way to think about it, which allows you to determine, is the decision that I made the correct one? You know?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't feel like virtue ethics will ever give something like that.
What was that?
Oh, that was my my window closing.
Oh boy.
It's a loud ass window.
I mean, I guess I can't really defend against that critique because I don't know much about virtue ethics,
Yeah, that's
actually.
fair.
So.
That's fair. You definitely need some time to develop your ideas. I don't blame you for that.
Yeah.
What?
Nothing. You definitely need some time to develop your ideas.
Did I sound condescending?
I mean, it didn't sound
At all times,
you know,
yes, obviously.
it
Well,
was
yeah,
just-
I know that, but like, did I sound especially condescending?
No, I mean,
I
just,
didn't interpret it that way.
You know, I didn't. I know it didn't come from a mean place or anything. It was just funny. It was just
Okay.
funny because like you could imagine that being said in a really passive aggressive, like condescending way. It wasn't. It clearly wasn't. It's
It'd be really good for you to like think more, you know?
Yeah.
You know, I think if you just like thought like about things in general more, you'd just be like a better, more happy person. I don't know.
Oh man, that's such Korean advice. Just think more, Kappa.
Alright, yeah, I see what you're saying. That's pretty funny.
I don't know, I think that should be the end of the meeting. Like, just we end on that note. Yeah, guys, I think you need to just think more.
Well, wait, did you say Korean way of doing things? Is that what you said?
No, it's just a meme. Like, whenever in like gaming, someone tells you, "So how do I win?" Well, just win. That's Korean advice. Like hashtag Korean advice.
Oh, because I was gonna say like with, I mean, when I think of Chinese, you know, the way like my mom, you know, it was always like you just listen to what your betters tell you. That's what you do. That's what you're supposed to do.
It's not really that. Like Korean advice is more something like or do not. There is no try.
All right.
Yeah. So, I mean, we can move on. I don't have anything more interesting to say.
I'm hoping that your moral philosophy is not actually hate.
Yeah, my moral philosophy is that everyone is awful and everyone just deserves to die. That's the entire thing. There's no nuance. It's just, no, I'm a preference utilitarian, which is to say that I think that the maximum number of people's preferences should be fulfilled to the maximal extent possible.
Don't you think that just so discounts like the value of the individual, though? Like,
well, does it though?
Yeah,
don't even see what you're getting there.
No, because I mean, like, so it's just like a democratic election of like, okay, so the most people we go with what the most people prefer, and then what about the minority?
Ideally, it's about like fulfilling the preferences of the most amount of people, like at once, right? You wouldn't want to wouldn't go for like, oh, most people want this, therefore we should do this. It's more along the lines of what makes the most people happy. Right? Like,
no.
So if you can,
like, if all you're trying to do is
like,
find a situation to be this path of people, then obviously you'll end up with situations of the kind that you're critiquing. But like, the point is to there's this great thing. Have you heard of ranked choice voting?
Of which? No. Sorry,
ranked choice voting.
Like proportional representation.
So here's how it works. Instead of just voting on a person, you give each person an order. Like you order how much you like the candidates, right? And so the classic example for this is, say you have a car and it has 3 people in it, and they're trying to decide where to go to dinner, right? And one of them's a vegetarian, the other 2 aren't. If you vote in the normal way, then 50% of them go to the steak restaurant. 66% actually. And so the vegetarian is not happy. But, instead, you can have them rank 3 restaurants. One is a vegetarian only restaurant, one's a steak restaurant, one has both. And then you'll find that the one with both is one they're both happy with. And so you can satisfy all 3 of their preferences, in a way that is a slightly more complicated but better system of determining how to do that.
That's generally a good way of describing what I'm talking about, yeah.
That's a very specific example, and it's a very specific kind of example, but it's you can see how it generalizes.
Yeah, but it's an example of that type of thinking. Yeah. Yeah, it's not just go with whatever the most people want, like, over what the other people want, right? Yeah.
Not just find a solution that most people are happy with. Find a solution which is best.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
not find a solution which most people are happy with. Find the solution which the most people are happy with.
I mean, I think also, though, the problem I see is there's, like, a distinction between, like this is, like, talking about social systems, like, deciding what to do in a society. And, like, that's, like, ethics. And I can more agree with utilitarian ethics, but, like, What about like morality, like what you as an individual should do? Like as an individual, are you always just trying to maximize the happiness of like everybody around you when you make moral choices? Is that what you're trying to do?
When I make moral choices, I'm trying to generally, technically maximize the preference fulfillment of those around me, but that's usually synonymous with happiness. So sure.
Yourself is also considered in the list.
Yeah, I am also a person around me. Yeah.
Would you not say that yourself has more weight than other people, though? Probably it does.
I don't try to give myself more moral weight. No.
You don't, but it probably does.
I have probably. I have a greater understanding of what I want and need than other people, and generally a greater ability to act on those things. So generally speaking, my actions are going to be weighted around myself.
Yeah, you might consider that even if you want to take actions which fulfill preferences most effectively, you might find that the most effective way to do that is to fulfill your own preferences first, just because
my own preferences are those that make me most capable of fulfilling things.
Per unit of time you spend fulfilling preferences, you'll be able to create the most preference fulfilling your own preferences in that time, especially if they're very important, because you know your own preferences better than you know those of somebody else. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah, you're more capable of fulfilling your own preferences than other people's in a lot of cases, just because you understand yours more fully. Yeah.
Now, if you were had the decision between killing 2 random people and killing your dad.
Well, this is a bad example because I don't like my dad very much.
Okay, I was actually literally just going to say, assuming you like your dad, which you may not. Okay.
God, that was so perfect. Oh.
Okay, then someone you love,
Yeah.
A romantic partner, we'll say.
A friend. Everyone's got a friend.
Yeah.
Think of a specific friend.
Are you kidding me? That's a heavy assumption to make.
Okay.
Kidding.
2 random people. Simply on moral grounds, I would have to go with the person I care about. Although, generally speaking, it would be a difficult decision to make because obviously, because my preferences weigh heavily into my decision making, even outside of the moral realm.
You know what
but
I
would want to I would hope that I would be able to make the morally right decision there.
I was just thinking about what I would do, and I feel I would just definitely kill the 2 other people.
I'm not saying I wouldn't. I'm saying morally speaking, I should.
And I don't know what I should do. I feel I wouldn't have a strong moral feeling either way. I would feel it was wrong no matter what.
Well, the thing is that it's a really shitty thing either way, and it's there is no good solution here. There's just bad and worse.
Yeah, that's also another reason why having some sort of systemic morality is really important.
Yeah, so you can make decisions in cases like that.
Yeah, but I wouldn't.
When there is no good decision, there is still a correct decision in that there is a decision which is best.
I don't think there is a correct decision, though.
I would say that you are
you're not any kind of... Your morality doesn't lead to that type of
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so that's not surprising.
Okay, so what I would say on this matter is that I don't think that it's useful to design your morality in such a way that catch-22s can exist. I think that adds an extra element of complexity that is unnecessary, so Occam's razor, I would say that
Occam's razor doesn't apply to morality in that sense. That's not how that works.
No. So what I mean specifically is that you can put it in such a way that at any point you have multiple options. I'm not saying objective morality, I'm saying according to your own preferences. And whenever you have multiple options, you can't practically say that all of them are bad. So I wouldn't say bad and worse. I would say actually good and bad. Even in that case with killing 1 person or 2 people, because At the end of the day, if like we make the situation such a way that someone has to be murdered, and that's like the baseline of the situation, so it's morally neutral that happens because that thing will happen.
Upon reflection, I mean, it's not a good feeling, but I think I just care more about the people close to me than I do about random people. And,
okay. Likewise, yeah, I agree.
And so I think that I don't know.
Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. I think that if you have a moral system which allows you to end up in catch-22s like that, if you have a system which doesn't answer every question, every moral question, then it's not necessarily that system is definitely wrong, but I think that it is necessarily incomplete. Does that make sense?
But there's a difference between a system in which, like, eventually you will reach a contradiction, and the system in which, like, you can very easily think of a contradiction off the top of your head. It's not the same thing.
Well, actually, the principle of explosion says no.
Well, the principle of explosion applies to systems that all
what's the principle of explosion?
The principle of explosion is a principle in formal logic where if you find a contradiction in logic, then the entirety of logic is wrong, not just that specific sentence. Basically. Like, if there's one incongruity anywhere in the system, then the entire system falls, not just...
Yeah, basically, if from two assumptions you can derive a contradiction, then you can also validly derive any fact.
But, like, you can build systems that avoid abiding by the principle of contradiction. And, like, you can actually look this up. There's even, like, types of logic that avoid explosion.
I totally want you to link that to me, because that sounds awesome.
Okay, sure. 1 second.
I've always wondered if that kind of thing was possible, but I never knew what to look up to find it. This is like off topic and mathy, sorry.
That's alright, it's interesting.
That's fine.
Alright, Kate, anything else to say about your utilitarianism?
No, I think that's it. That's it. Unless anyone else has any questions or arguments against it. Like, I mean, I guess, yeah, I definitely might, like, in the situation you explained, I might choose the person who I care about more over the two other people. But that wouldn't be the morally best decision. That would be a decision that was overtly affected by my personal preferences.
So I have a question. Is this specifically, like, long-term consequentialist kind of thing? It seems like it must be simply because, like, sometimes the sum of everybody's preferences would lead to a situation in an instant, which would lead to necessarily...
Yeah, I'm not necessarily talking about only people's short-term preferences.
Okay.
Yeah, like people, you weight people's preferences that, people's long-term preferences are generally of heavier weight than their short-term preferences. So
yeah,
you should.
So as an example, if somebody's preference is not to die, and their preference is also to have a cookie, then you would not give them a cookie if it would kill them.
Yes, exactly. Because they, well, unless you somehow know that they value having that cookie over not dying.
Yeah, okay.
But generally speaking, you can assume that that's the case.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure of that.
Yeah.
All right, this is interesting. I'm gonna look at both of these later.
Cool.
Para-consistent logic. This is some weird shit. Okay.
Yeah, that definitely looks interesting. I'm also gonna want to look into that.
Yeah. It never really occurred to me, except in passing, that the principle of explosion and stuff like that were properties of our specific logical systems that we use.
Wikipedia is not loading for me, but, like, obviously my internet is fine because I'm still on the fucking call.
It's loading for me.
That is weird.
Fuck?
Oh yeah, for the record, in terms of my recording, there are definitely going to be some low quality portions because my CPU has been having problems lately.
Right.
But it's all understandable anyway, because I understood it.
Also, I guess we should clarify. Everybody is okay with these being recorded, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh shit.
We talked about it a lot. I think somebody would have spoken up.
Yeah, I certainly hope someone would have mentioned it if they had a problem with it.
Yeah. Because I did realize.
Silence is consent, boys. Silence is consent. I'm joking.
Oh dear.
That's what it sounded like for a second there.
Alright. Friggin' humming at historic. You got things to say?
It's just that. I mean, my ethical and meta-ethical views are underdeveloped. Before this, I was basically some sort of moral anti-realist, and I just wasn't really convinced that though I hadn't really researched it too much, to be honest, and but I was basically just convinced you can't get an ought from an is and those sorts of things. But I've had a few conversations with people such as utilitarians, and they like to say this distinction. You know what they say in terms of basically in terms of inductive reasoning. Like of course you can't get an if you say you can't get an ought from an is, then you can't get a has been the two will
you can't get an ought from an is, but you can get an ought from an is and a want, right? Like,
sorry,
like given what you want to have, like your preferences, you can get an ought, like from that and the cases that are. Well, just you can't derive goals from facts on their own.
Like, that's not really an ought, is it? It's more like a how. Like, I want to do this, how?
Yeah, exactly.
How than an ought. You know?
Oh, yeah. You can't get an ought from an is. You can get an ought from an is and a goal.
Yeah.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, if you have a specific goal, there is definitely a wrong way to do it. Like, an objectively wrong way to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess. I mean, it's how to. In terms of the goal, I mean, I guess how do you determine what that would be? Or
your emotions.
By what you care about.
But
you can't objectively decide what is best to care about because there is no basis from which to decide that. It's yeah.
We are also anti-realists, so yeah, goals are not...
Well, yeah, sorry, assuming you're a moral anti-realist. If you're a moral realist, then I suppose you can define that by however the fuck you figure out what is the true morality. But most people aren't because it's kind of
don't have enough diversity of thought. Yeah.
You can, yeah, if you can somehow just derive your morality from reality in the sense that, oh, it exists over here, look. Then I guess there it is. There's the goal, but you can't.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, I still agree. I was going to say that. Have you?
There's so many partially cut off sentences in both of our.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. I was doing it too.
But there's also you could say a kind of a distinction between you can't get an ought from an is, but it's also I've heard that if you say that, then you can't get a will be from an is in a sense. You can't trust inductive reasoning. I've heard.
Well, I mean, that's kind of not accurate though. Like you can assuming, I guess, given the assumption that things generally continue in the way that they have, you can assume if you can assume cause and effect, you can assume that you can get a will be from an is. right? Like, look, this person is hitting this baseball with a bat. So, given that in previous instances where this type of thing has happened, the thing that has been hit has moved in a certain way, I can then say that thing will do a similar thing here. Right? Like, you can, as long as you can assume that causation is real.
And even if you can't say, like, necessarily, like, causation is real, I mean, it just, so far, it seemed to be good enough, so it's probably...
Yeah, the thing is that assuming that causation exists has worked so far, and thus it probably will by its own.
I mean,
logic.
we might as well. Like, otherwise, you're just stuck in limbo, being like, oh, like I have no reason to believe. Like, there's there's a fucking.
And if we're putting this into moral thinking, like most people will agree with that anyway, because if you don't believe that causation is real, I don't know what the fuck you're doing, like, anywhere, right? Like,
I can't even imagine what it would look like for causation to not be real.
I can't imagine what it would look like for a person to literally believe that causation is not real.
Okay, wait, guys. I have a comic from Existential Comics.
Of course, yes, perfect.
TTP. New protocol.
Oh my god, I'm so annoyed.
Okay, so I want.
Yeah, it's just a text transfer protocol. It's just plain text.
Oh wait, actually, that's not even the best one for this particular concept. I mean, this one's actually better for that particular concept. It doesn't matter. They're all good.
They are.
Okay,
good.
So I wanted to make the point that although it is not possible for causality to not exist, I do think it is possible to believe reasonably that it is possible for events to occur which do not have causes.
Wait, say that you think it's possible for events to not have causes?
No. I think that one could reasonably believe, or at least semi-reasonably believe, that it's possible for events to not have causes.
Like, at all?
Yeah, like in this belief, one would believe that most events have causes, but that it's possible for an event to occur which does not have a cause.
I guess it is possible to believe that, and still function most of the time, but
is it reasonable to believe
it's
that?
Not yeah, I would say it's not a reasonable belief to have.
I mean, again, like when 70% of the planet believes in God, we can't say it's not like it's something rare, because like in most religions, the God is the thing that is uncaused by definition. A lot of people believe that there can be such things as uncaused phenomena.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess, like, there's a difference between, like I was sort of thinking as in just, not just, like, the initiator of reality or whatever as not having a cause, but of thinking as things, like, within reality not having a cause. That's what I was thinking that someone in the ad was getting at.
I can't imagine.
Sorry, I'm also reading the comment, and then I heard my name.
Was that what you were getting at?
What was I getting at?
Were you talking about, like, the idea, like, as Cryo mentioned, which I did not think that's what you were referring to, of, like, there is a singular thing that doesn't have a cause, like the reason, like the universe itself, like, existing doesn't really necessarily have a cause, or God not having a cause, and God, like, makes the universe, so God is the cause of everything else after him, but he himself doesn't have a cause? Or are you talking about within reality, like after reality already exists, you can imagine things happening that don't have a cause? Which were you talking about?
Now that I think about it, the very idea of reality having a cause is fucking wacky. I need to think about my metaphysics.
Yeah. Generally speaking, the line that I take is, I don't know, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. We literally don't know anything about how it came to be, or if that's even, like...
It's
because
kind of a nonsense question.
Realistically,
yeah.
Cause and effect exist within reality. They don't necessarily actually apply to its metaphysics.
I mean, the thing is that so basically the way that the universe works is that the way the universe works is that things happen one after the other because, like in the context of causality, because time can actually pass. Without reality, you don't have time. When you say that
time is a thing within reality.
Appeared, I mean, like there are like some theories that are like undergoing now. They're purely mathematical. There's no like empirical proof for them, but there are attempts for models of timeless physics that would allow for that. They're not like the consensus. The current consensus is that time passing is like a feature of reality and of space, like an emergent property of that. Like the increasing level of information and entropy between the entanglement of like base particles. And in that context, yes, time is a feature of reality. So before reality, there was no time. Before reality existed, there was no such thing as cause and effect. But now that we're in reality, there's only such thing as cause and effect.
That's not, but that doesn't make sense. There is no. How could it make sense for there to be a moment of reality coming into existence, and therefore that would be required for there to be a before reality, if time is contingent on the existence of reality?
But we don't know when reality started.
We
can't
actually
answer
realistically,
that.
we don't mean. Well, I wouldn't mean before reality. I would say outside of reality, since before doesn't technically
there is no such thing as before
reality.
There is no such thing as outside of reality.
Now,
Sorry, I'm eating, but
no problem.
It's just nonsense. Like conceptually, we can like talk about something being quote unquote outside of reality, but like all that exists is reality. There is nothing that exists outside of reality. Like we're just moving words
right.
around.
In this case, I'm saying for reality, I mean like this universe. I suppose, reality does refer to everything, regardless of whether it's in this universe or not.
Outside of this universe exists Platonic concept of the ideal cup of coffee, which I'm going to make right now.
You know what? I could also use to make the ideal cup of coffee pretty soon. That would be pretty nice.
1 second. Let me go check the International Standards Organization website.
I believe there is a standard for a cup of coffee, and it's pretty shit.
There's one for a cup of tea.
If I had coffee now, I probably wouldn't be able to sleep well tonight.
Fair.
Okay. Fucking, I guess for me then. I am incidentally last again. Alright. So, I'm gonna go about this in... I was tapping a bunch of shit down in a text document while you guys were talking, because you guys brought up a lot of good points that I thought, I should probably address that when going over my thing. Okay, so I think the first thing to note is that I am definitely a moral anti-realist. The way I word this here is there is no, because we've been talking about Kant, and so I figured this would be a fun way to put it. There is no universal goal, and there is no non-subjective goal of humans. And
I'm so sorry. Because I guess I'm kind of dumb. Like I don't know. Can someone please just define moral anti-realism?
Oh, it means you don't think morality exists in reality. Like external, like from people.
Like there is no morality which can be determined.
Christian.
There is no morality which can be determined for a reason.
There is
no morality which can be determined without a subjective perspective. None of that.
Yeah, basically, morality is subjective and not actually real.
All right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And so anyway. There is no universal goal, and there is no non-subjective goal of humans. And a fortiori, a generalized category which contains humans. So I do want to take a moment to talk about the definitions that I use for the words right and wrong. It seems like some people think of wrong as an action which creates negative like a negative. You know what? Okay, I used to use the phrase well-being to describe the way I think about utilitarianism, and that was always the thing that I felt most iffy about. You know, fucking. I used to do that, and I did that until about like half an hour ago, and then Kate said preference, and I just decided, wow, that is really good, and I don't think I'm going. I think I'm just going to take that right away and not even think about it very critically, because even if there's a problem with it, there's no way it's worse than well-being. What a pithy term.
Yeah, the general term you could use for like referring to it, like regardless of specific utilitarian system, is to just say utility.
I know, but I don't like that either.
That's fair. I wouldn't say, and you shouldn't use utility like specifically for like whatever you specifically believe. I just mean like as a general term to refer to whatever it is people value in their moral systems in general.
Yes, preferences are a very good one. That aligns with my moral intuitions really well. Okay.
Lovely.
So right and wrong are really tricky ideas, and I do want to clarify my definition. I think, like, some people think that wrong is when some outcome happens which is not desirable for some reason, right? Like it's morally wrong that some things are inherently wrong, or that something is wrong when it fails to satisfy some preferences, right? But like, I don't agree with this. I think that when faced with a situation, there are wrong answers which make things worse by taking that action, and there are right answers which work to make things better, and then there is a correct answer, and the correct answer is
what makes things the best.
Yeah, is the answer which makes things best. And so ultimately your goal is to have an answer that is correct as possible.
Yeah, as close to the what was the term you used actually? The best answer.
As best.
Yeah. As best as possible.
As close to best answer as possible. Fucking, there is a best answer, but it is usually almost impossible to know because you would have to have like infinite processing power and infinite knowledge. But your goal should be to get the best answer you can,
given the time you have to decide.
Yeah, of course.
Because usually not deciding is not the best answer.
Okay. And so one might wonder, well, how the fuck do I come to this goal? And so ultimately I do think that morality as a moral anti-realist, I think that the source of morality...
what I should say, cryo-liberal just said inaction is action. I forgot. I have to be saying
Yeah, I approve.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I also approve. I think that what you do and what outcome that leads to. What course of action you take. Course of action is a very good alternative to action because inaction is part of the course of action. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
But also, there's a difference between not doing something and choosing to not do something. Don't have perfect overlap.
Well, but for the purposes of utilitarianism, they are the same.
No, they're not, because they show something about your preferences. Because if you didn't know that you could have done something, then you're not doing it. Doesn't say anything about your moral character.
We're not talking about not doing something specifically. I'm talking about not doing anything at all in a situation, like not performing an action. Right?
And you could also, you could not do anything because you don't feel like doing anything, and you could also not do anything because you believe that there's nothing you can do. And those two are different moral actors, because from that you can glean different types of behavior in the future, not similar types of behavior.
Okay.
That's fair, but also given that you can't look inside that person's mind, I don't think that there is externally any difference either.
That also requires the person to disclose that to you, which is itself a difference of action.
Yeah.
And you can't have a perfect guess at that. You can just try to.
Yeah, but yes, you can. But yes, theoretically, if you are aware of like two people acting in those different ways, then you will generally speaking, those are like though you can predict those people acting different ways than they are, and
yeah. That is certainly, though, a practical distinction. Which
that's a practical distinction, not really a moral distinction.
Yeah. It's more about figuring out specific actions rather than general principles. Okay, so anyway, as a moral anti-realist, there are only two approaches that I see as valid to morality, and those are to source your morality from emotion in some way, or to take a moral nihilist standpoint and to be like, you know what, I don't even care, fuck morality, fuck off, I'm gonna go play video games.
In the colloquial sense of nihilism, not the ethical sense, not the philosophical sense of nihilism.
Yeah.
It is necessary to clarify here.
Well,
I do think that actually is a philosophically consistent approach, which is important. You know?
Yes.
Well, I would like to add, though, that like even if you say like you've person going to play video games, fuck morals, who cares? Like it doesn't erase the feelings inside yourself towards morality that you have. So, I mean, in a sense, like when you do say fuck morality, sometimes you have to fight against your own moral feelings in order to do that.
Yeah, that's true.
No, I personally could definitely choose to just not.
Dude, I mean, as someone who may or may not have tried to just completely not give a fuck about morality and do everything based on self-interest, it involved a lot of fighting against. I did not realize I had, a lot of, maybe you could just say it was empathy for other people, but like a lot of times when I just naturally wouldn't want to do things, even though I was like, oh, that makes more sense.
Well, your own feelings, like, about a thing, like, your own emotional feelings about a thing are, like, a part of your self-interest.
Well, and then maybe my fucking morality is completely self-interested then, because it is based entirely on my feelings and how I feel. I just want to be comfortable, like...
Yeah, framing that as entirely self-interested is, I think, a valid alternative phrasing, which is essentially the same as what you said.
Yeah. It is possible to have an entirely self-interested morality based entirely on just, look, I feel like this is wrong, and the fact that I feel like this is wrong affects my well-being, which is the thing I actually care about.
Yeah.
That is a valid stance.
Yeah, that is ultimately the default stance of morality. Intuition. Is that what it's called? That's not actually what it's called.
Moral intuitivism?
It's what Freedom Baby calls it.
It's such a dumb thing.
Intuitionist deontology, yeah.
Also, I say intuitive deontology, just to be clear. But it's such a fucking made-up thing. It's a made-up thing. It's not real.
Yeah.
Calling it intuition, calling it intuitive is a good way to put it, because it is entirely based on intuition. Okay, so anyway, the point is that if you are to actually take a moral stance which isn't that de facto selfishness, right? Then you have, I think, that the best approach to this. This is not me making a statement about like objective fact here. This is just me making like a heuristic statement, which might seem a little bit wonky, but basically, I think the best approach to that is to take an axiomatic approach to morality. And I think it's worth spending some time defending the advantages.
Hey, just for the record, guys, I'm running low on disk space, so I've got about 9 minutes left of recording on this thing.
Well, I won't lie to
you. Yeah, I won't lie to you. Also, my attention span is severely dead after 3 hours, so I don't know how much more. I mean, I can still just obviously record if you guys want to go, but like,
Audacity has decided that it's being fickle. I now have 4 minutes.
Well, I'm still recording as well.
Okay.
But,
I might be done recording pretty soon.
Okay. And anyway, axiomatic morality is important, I think, because it provides a groundwork for action. The point of developing a moral axiom is to have a principle of action to follow, which will lead me to action which I can determine was correct upon reflection. So, like, the idea is that I can have something where I can look back on that and go, yes, that was the right decision. And the reason that's important is because the reason it's important is because any other approach to morality will lead my decisions to be biased by the situation I'm currently in. And especially when making moral decisions, the moment of making the decision is an emotional one. So if I don't have a principle to act on, then I'm going to make decisions I don't ultimately deeply agree with. And if I can find a principle that I can act upon, if I can find a principle that I can use to make action that I will agree with in retrospect, then it will prevent me from making moral decisions that I ultimately agree with due to personal biases.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so it's ultimately not a completely 100% necessary thing to take a moral axiom, but I think it is extremely useful if I can find one that I ultimately agree with in all situations. And I do believe that what I'm now calling preference utilitarianism is that thing, right? It will always lead me to answers which I agree with in retrospect. It's also important because it makes my moral decisions stronger. If my principle is right, and my facts are right, and my logic is right, my moral decision will be right. As opposed to wishy-washy morality, which is extremely difficult to judge as logically sound or logically unsound. And the final thing is that probability is important. If I don't have all the information, I may make the decision which is most likely to work out well given the information I have, and still see that decision come out awful. But I can still say I made the right decision, even if it turned out like shit, because based on the information I had, this was the outcome, or this was the decision which was most likely to have the best outcome.
Yeah. Although, of course, you want to then update your priors for future prediction.
Fucking, that's just normal Bayesian stuff.
Yeah.
Bayesian? I don't
Just
know.
simping for base, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just simping for base.
My girlfriend has a sister named Basia.
Oh.
I don't... It's not relevant, it's just funny.
Anyway, this is definitely really similar, I think. Most similar to what Haidt put forth. I do think that the meta justification for it definitely has more to it.
Yeah.
So the question is, the question I suppose for, especially Freedom, since Freedom has the most contradictory system to what I have here, is how do you deal with the fact that without a principle to act upon, you can make decisions which are influenced principally by what you're feeling in a situation that you may disagree with upon reflection?
I want to be clear, though. Just like when I say like I go based on my feelings, it doesn't mean I haven't like developed some kind of principles that I've clearly like spelled out for myself that I follow. And although it might be in a situation, I might have, like I said, an overwhelming moral feeling to do one thing over another, which isn't necessarily like it doesn't come from like, oh, I have a spelled out moral principle and that's why I feel this way. It's like the moral feeling comes first. But I still, based on those moral feelings I've had and do have when I just consider different potential situations, devise some sort of like clear principles that I follow and I use to guide myself, especially when things are less clear. Wait, does that answer your question? I don't know if it does. What was your question? I'm sorry, I told you my brain is like fried.
That's fine. The question was just how do you deal with the fact that I think you answered it pretty well. The question was how do you deal with the fact that without exact principles, you may make decisions in moments which you disagree with in retrospect?
Oh. Well, yeah. I mean, the thing is, like, that may happen. I haven't really found it to happen where I did something I thought was right in the moment. Like I felt really strongly that I knew it was right. and then I looked back and I was like, damn, that was wrong. Like, I haven't actually experienced that, but I can imagine experiencing that. And I think part of this is my life philosophy of not regretting things just because you can't control what you've already done. But I guess I would also say, what's important to me is that I strive to do what's best. And if I was still striving to do what was best in that moment, like, even if I might disagree in the future, it doesn't change that I was still striving for the best. I mean, it's much more common for me to look back and realize, wow, I was really not trying to do what was best. Like, I was, not being moral, not because I had the wrong morals in mind, but because I wasn't trying to be moral in the first place.
Okay.
Right.
That makes sense. So in that case, you pretty much just subvert all of what I just said, because it is self-admitted that having that axiom isn't strictly necessary if you never run into a situation where it is necessary over not having it, and it seems like you just haven't.
It's like, well,
Yeah.
that hasn't happened. I haven't needed to do that. Fair
Yeah,
enough.
I'm trying to think, like...
Well, there is one more advantage. There is one more advantage that is purely for fun, that just fulfills a really stupid preference of mine, which is that if I take a moral axiom, then it makes discussing morality a lot more fun.
Yeah.
I mean, fair.
I mean, have any of you guys read Kierkegaard? Like, Fear and Trembling?
Yes.
Only a little.
Wait, Cryo, did you actually read it?
And yeah, you told me to, so I read it.
Oh, you never told me you read it, and we never talked about it.
Did. Oh, we never talked about it, yeah, but I did tell you I read it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, because, I think we briefly passed this over when we talked about Camus, but, I think, like, it really resonates with me, that message, and I think it informs some of how I think about morality, where Kierkegaard mentions that, there is this, like, there's, like, obviously, he called it ethics, which I believe in, which has to do with society. It has to do with, like norms, and he talks specifically about the Bible story of Abraham going to kill his son Isaac. Like, ethically, it's wrong to go fucking kill your son and take him and sacrifice him. Like, that's wrong. You talk to any other human being, they're going to be like, that's wrong. That's awful. That doesn't make any sense. That's just going to cause harm. You shouldn't do that.
Wait, not any other human being. It isn't like... I'm pretty sure most Christians that I know would say, nah, he was doing the right thing.
No, but the thing is, okay, most Christians might say Abraham was doing the right thing, but let's say that your neighbor, you're a Christian, and your neighbor Charlie comes out and says, God told me to take my son and go sacrifice him. What do you think most Christians are going to do? They're going to think...
be a hypocrite.
Yeah, but they're not going to be a hypocrite. No, they're not going to be a hypocrite. They're going to, go off of their ethics of normal society and say, like, you're fucking crazy. I don't believe you. I'm going to stop you. And that's totally correct. It's totally a valid way of thinking, because what told Abraham to go kill his son was God directly telling him. He told him as an individual, and that communication was entirely subjective. There's no way anybody else could have known about it. And so what Abraham felt was right. He felt it so deep in his core as right, inherently right. It didn't come from ethics or society or the norms or any utilitarian ethics. It came from something beyond that, what Kierkegaard refers to as the universal.
I was going to say hallucination.
You could say that too, and that's the thing. I mean, but that's in a sense that represents my idea of morality. It doesn't come from other people. It comes from something outside of it that's more important than a utilitarian calculus of what's best for everybody. Like, I will totally agree. Like, when you're designing a government, like, sure, like, it makes sense to use a utilitarian calculus to, like, devise a system like that. I can get behind that. That's fine. But even though maybe I don't actually want that, but, like, I can understand it and think it's valid. But when it comes to a personal morality, I believe it's something beyond that. something that and yes, I think it's rooted in biology. Ultimately, our biology as like social beings, we have these inclinations towards certain behaviors that promote certain things. I don't know. We just have things we want to do, and having strong feelings towards particular types of actions is just an inherent part of our nature. So I'm not saying that there isn't some biological root to it. It's not necessarily a higher power, like moving something inside of us. It's not the Holy Spirit coming and telling us what's right and wrong.
And I definitely agree with that, right? Like, I acknowledge actively that the source of the source of morality from my perspective is definitely emotions, which I think the more sublime might be the wrong word.
No, I like that word. I mean, I love guys. I just want to be clear, guys. I love religion. Like, I like go to church. Like, I like lead worship at church. Oh man, my beliefs on the matter. But I fucking love religion. Dude. I love that shit. It's so fun. It's great. I mean, I say fun, but I think there's genuinely good things about religion, and like, anyways, I think.
Okay, just as a utilitarian, I'm just going to throw shade and say that the preference fulfillment of religious people brought about by religion is vastly outweighed by the massive amount of social harm that religion always causes.
Well, organized.
I agree.
Well, first of all, how do you measure the harm of religion? Because you can measure the harm of organized religion, but how do you measure the benefits of individuals having religious beliefs that could have only have resulted from an organized religion?
Ultimately, religious beliefs come in the form of faith, which are toxic to any ideology because they encourage.
I mean, you can say faith can be toxic, but faith can also be good. It can give meaning to your life. It can make you feel like something's important. I mean, I feel like it's really valid when Nietzsche talked about the death of God.
Faith.
Okay, faith, as far as I can tell, is to believe something which does not have evidence supporting it. Is that reasonable?
Well, yeah, like, I mean, it's like the faith
evidence
I have
for things unseen.
No, the faith I have that following my personal morality is meaningful or important. The faith I have that it's right, that's faith. There's no evidence for my morality.
And if I believe that, and I do, that preference fulfillment is extremely important, then I also necessarily believe that it is extremely important to have correct information. It is extremely important that when you make decisions, the factors which you take into account are accurate reflections of reality. Because if they aren't, then you're not going to be able to be very effective in that goal. And this means that...
And arguably that applies to other moralities, just in terms of fulfilling goals that go towards them.
Any vaguely consequentialist morality, or even any, like, fucking para-consequentialist morality, practically, always will rely on this principle that having more information is always good for fulfilling the moral obligation, any moral obligation. And because of this implies that holding yourself to a standard of belief which does not hold evidence as important inherently.
Your subjective experience is a piece of evidence.
Say what?
Your subjective experience is a piece of evidence.
Yes, it is.
Yes, but what I'm saying is that faith is not just about the subjective experience. It's about having beliefs about the non-subjective reality which are not supported by evidence. And in doing so, that is a faulty standard for evidence, which, if accepted, causes false beliefs inevitably. If your philosophically consistent belief. Yeah, and false beliefs are harmful because they lead to shitty capability for preference fulfillment.
Yeah. I mean, I think part of the issue is that you can say, oh yeah, false beliefs are harmful, but like, how do we really know which beliefs are true and which are false?
Beliefs which are not accurately based on reality, like coming from that, are demonstrably less likely to be true. to be.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could take the big brain approach and preserve religion by claiming that there is no objective reality at all, or that we can't observe it even approximately.
Or you just look at the way that religious practices make people happy.
And I didn't say that
some religious practices make people happy. I wouldn't argue that all of them do.
No. Of course, not all of them do. And I think the particular thing with Christianity is if you're a straight person who's wants to have kids and get married, and like that's like something that can fit. Like if you're a quote unquote, forgive me, normal person, you know, if you are, but you'll be pretty happy if you follow the beliefs. You probably will. It doesn't account for the individuals outside of that norm who, you know, are gay or transgender. It may not account for that, depending on your type of Christianity, of course. The one I happen to go to is they believe the Bible is literally true and that evolution does not exist. They're lovely people. I love them to death. Like they're wonderful, wonderful people.
Okay. So
they're wonderful, wonderful people. To you.
You're watching a religion cause everybody around you to have false beliefs due to their faulty standard of evidence.
I mean, what does not believing in evolution do?
Evolution is extremely important for understanding reality. Let me talk. Okay.
No.
No.
Evolution is really important for understanding biological realities and how they come to be. And having that general framework allows...
Just so you know that most people who don't believe, are creationists, it's not that they don't believe in, and it's a cringe. They call it microevolution. They don't believe in macroevolution.
God, I forgot about fucking microevolution bullshit.
Look, I've had some fun dealings with,
I believe in exactly as much evolution as somebody can convince me that I would be able to see with my eyes.
Well, look, the thing is, I think that, I don't know, I just don't like it when people paint religion as just like, oh, it's just bad. It's just harmful. And I don't think...
we're not arguing that it's just harmful. There are definitely benefits. We're arguing that, generally speaking, it's not as efficient in terms of its benefits as it easily could be.
Cryoliberal says there is absolutely no evidence that not believing in evolution leads to bad outcomes. I literally know medical researchers who are creationists.
Here's the thing, though, right? Using evolution as a perspective for understanding people is extremely useful because a lot of people's behaviors make sense only if you consider them as evolved creatures.
I completely disagree. I think evolutionary psychology is like the sketchiest science of them all. You cannot test any of those hypotheses.
It's not ethical to test them. Okay, so guys, I know this is quite off topic, but I think Somiat said that you probably most of us here that are consequentialists probably are against faith, and I said it's only off topic. We can only talk about this if you want, but
I think we should definitely continue this conversation next week. By the way.
Okay, sure.
Because it's great.
Well, your Audacity is already fucked out.
My Audacity is fine. My disk space is not.
Yeah.
But I deleted some shit, so I'm actually good now.
Oh.
And I have multiple disks. It's just that Audacity stores its stuff temporarily on my main drive, which is way smaller.
Oh. I've had that problem before too.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's fine.
How big is the Audacity file at this point, by the way?
Currently, I'm not sure how big it is, but it's at 3 hours.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. You're going to want to export that to something that has relatively low audio quality.
I'll just export it at 22,000 hertz as an OGG. It'll be fine then. Because OGGs are fucking tiny, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is true. And they're not that bad.
No, they actually in some cases sound better than other formats. They sound fine. They're just also really small, which is nice.
I want to hear consequentialist faith, please.
Consequentialist faith?
I don't know, cry thing.
Yeah, cry.
Then,
I agree. That sounds.
Say more words on the topic. Yeah, no. Here's the thing, though. I think that. Okay. Okay.
I know exactly how you feel.
The other problem is that it would all be fine. It would all be relatively fine, and it wouldn't be that big of a deal if religion was just like this thing where it's just like you accept something in your head, and then it's just like, okay, whatever. I guess I'm just gonna compartmentalize that, and this is a belief that I have that doesn't really affect other things.
The whole reason it's important and meaningful is because it does affect your life. It gives your whole life meaning. It gives you some fucking principles by which to live by, so you're not just floating around like, I don't know what I
What he means is people compartmentalize it. So like medical researchers who don't believe in evolution, right? Like they can do that because they compartmentalize it away from their work and don't like.
No, but the thing is, you can.
Well, that's just being a good scientist.
No, excuse me, but the thing is, like, even if you do not believe that the Earth, even if you are a creationist in the sense that you believe the Earth was created 6,000 to 8,000 years ago, even if you believe that like evolution cannot give rise to the diversity in species that we see today, it doesn't mean that you think that the processes that we attribute to evolution aren't happening and aren't real and aren't affecting the world as we see them now. It just means that you do not think those processes were sufficient to bring about the Earth we see today. That's all that it means.
Okay, but like this is really important still because religion is necessary, because especially specifically, just to refer specifically to Christianity here, because it is necessarily a thing which. Because you're claiming it's a good thing that it permeates most aspects of a religious person's life, but this also practically necessitates at least, that it will also create more wrong beliefs, which may be more specific to the individual, but which are necessarily there.
I mean, I don't know. Like, first of all, I just have a problem with thinking that, one, wrong beliefs are necessarily harmful, and two, how the fuck do you know whether a belief is wrong or right?
If their belief is not based on reality, it is necessarily less likely to be accurate.
How do you know what's based in reality? I mean, like,
if it's based on faith, that's not based on reality. That's based on it feels right.
It's based on their reality. I mean, that is reality. Your experience is reality.
Oh my God. It's not. Yeah, okay.
It's not. It's not even based on that part. It's just based on this feels like it's very obviously.
But here's the thing. Most people like when you talk about faith, like I feel like it's a bit of a straw man to think people are just like, oh, I feel like that's true, so I think that's true. Like faith, like
you're right. They usually have less reason than that.
Faith, dude, I'm getting all triggered right now.
No. Listen, I was a fundamentalist Christian for the first 13
Can I
years of
finish, please? Like, oh my God, like you're just talking over me, and I'm so sorry. I'm
You're
like
right,
brain dead.
I'm sorry. Can you let Samia talk and stop talking over him? Like, this is just you. I can't even keep that going. Damn it.
You're right. I shouldn't have interrupted.
Your voice wasn't even that different. But like faith, how it actually is. Like you have to get like I can do some voices, okay, but I won't. But faith in practice, it really doesn't convince people of like from the majority of like just really ridiculous things. And the types of things that happen through faith are usually much more to do with like how to. Like what they should do in their day-to-day lives. It's not like, I don't know. I think I'm reiterating what I said before. I just don't think like having beliefs that contradict, what science, like the scientific consensus on reality, like for the most part, like isn't sufficiently harmful.
That's just not true at all. Like opposition to trans people actually just wouldn't exist if not for faith.
And also,
yeah.
I don't know if it's faith that does that. It's organized religion that does that. And yet again, I'm not saying that religion can't be harmful, but its harm is a result of the organization. I mean, like, for instance, my little church that I go to, they didn't want to perform a wedding when they found out that there was going to be a transgender person there. And that's like, that's,
sorry, like,
okay.
Wait, sorry, the transgender person was, like, a part of the wedding, or was literally just attending?
A part of the wedding.
Okay, it'd be kind of funny if it was just, there's going to be a trans person in attendance. We can't have this wedding.
But and like the thing is though.
How do you even keep calling these good people? They're just good people to each other, and that's it.
Well, I mean, they didn't like do anything hateful. They just said we don't feel comfortable with that. That's all they did. And like, I personally do not approve of that. But I also don't think it's unreasonable for a private individual in a private institution to not have to do something they didn't want to do and didn't feel comfortable with. It doesn't matter the reason. It's not like they were denying their right to get married. It was just they didn't want to perform the service.
Okay, no, you made a switch there.
But the fact that they don't want that. The fact that they are uncomfortable with that is bad for them and for the people who are they're like disallowing to get married there. That's demonstrably a harm that could be avoided.
I mean, you can't. I mean, it's assuming that you. I mean, again, I am not like. I do not believe the same things as these people. It is assuming that you believe that. Like transgender people, like that's a good thing that people are transgender. That it's not like you know
or
what I mean.
Or that it's neutral, or even just that like no. You could think that it's a bad thing, and it would still necessarily be more harmful in this case. For you would have to assume that them getting married would be a bad thing, and that it's somehow worse for these people to do it. Like,
they just it's literally just them being uncomfortable doing something.
No, it's not. Okay, even if it is bad, even if hypothetically it is bad if it is a bad outcome for somebody to be transgender, in order to be uncomfortable with that, you actually have to have the belief that being transgender is a choice, which is factually wrong, and the reason they have that factually wrong belief is because of faith.
No, being transgender is a choice. Having gender dysphoria is not a choice.
What the? Wait, no. I've always interpreted those as like the same two things.
Well, I think. Well, my point being like having
this conversation just got 4 hours longer.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, having the feeling that you are not the gender you were assigned at birth is different from going through the process of transitioning to another gender.
Okay.
They're different.
Okay.
Generally, to be fair, those are all three different things. You can't feeling as though you're a gender other than the one you were assigned at birth is not the same thing as gender dysphoria, is not the same thing as medically or socially transitioning. And this conversation, can go on for a really long time. I think we should maybe go back more on topic and then mark this down for a topic of future.
Is there a topic anymore?
No, there is not.
Maybe we should. I mean, I hate to end. Oh wait, no. Okay, so let's talk about next week then.
Yeah, we should do that.
Okay. So I'm just.
I do hope these topics come up again in the future though, because they're great.
It's nice to talk about. It is.
Okay, fucking. I swear. I kind of want to make one last fucking jab.
Oh my god!
I feel so strongly about this. Okay, fucking.
You have a strong moral feeling.
I know how you feel. I know how you feel, Sammy.
Even then, the belief that the choice to transition is one that should not be undertaken is also the belief that the suffering caused by dysphoria is of a lesser harm than.
I did not say that I agree with these people.
No, I know you didn't say you agree with it. I'm saying that it's necessarily bullshit beliefs.
I mean, you believe it's bullshit. You believe it's harmful. They do not.
No, I don't just believe it's harmful. I believe that there is not a single actually consistent moral system which makes this a correct thing to believe.
I mean, if you believe the Bible is literally true, it's...
That is deeply inconsistent.
Yeah, believing the Bible is true is not a consistent moral. It's not a consistent moral belief.
It's not consistent to our simple human minds, but it is simple. It is consistent, from the perspective of our Lord.
No,
God.
it's only consistent if you have the paraconsistent big brain logic.
Oh shit! Yeah, we haven't read paraconsistent logic yet. Yeah, we need to do that before we talk about this.
Okay. Anyway, fucking.
Next week. I'm so confused about Milcom's stuff because, I'm not sure if he said he's not here, but did the 2 p.m. work for people? I kind of I don't know. How do people feel?
Well, in my time zone, 2 p.m. is noon. So.
Okay.
My time zone, 2 p.m. is 9 p.m., which is fine.
In my time zone, 2 p.m. is 2 p.m.
The only problem is the several Europeans, which means that we have to keep moving it back.
Oh, no. For me, it's fine like this. I can do, right now, it's midnight, and it's perfectly fine for me.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fair.
Yeah, midnight is
So, guys, did you read what I wrote in voice text?
There's absolutely no evidence that I specifically said medical researcher instead of generally scientists.
Not that one.
No. Let me read it. Let me read it because I have the best reading voice.
Got it.
That's true, actually. That's true.
Calculus.
Now, does anybody actually
That's fucking great.
that? I'm sorry to be an asshole, but does anybody actually disagree with that?
Sorry, disagree with which part?
I think, you have a good reading voice, but if you want, you can read.
Sorry, disagree with which, though? I missed...
I'll just read it. Okay, it's way too crowded. This is Cryo's saying. Okay, it's way too crowded in voice chat. I'll just type it here. Even if you have the general principle that faith-based conclusions are inherently worse than evidence-based conclusions, when you measure the disparity in utility between those, you still may or may not get to a bigger amount of utility than the level of personal utility faith holds in people's lives. And if you hold it as an axiom that you can't say may or may not in this scenario, then you're not really looking at faith as a utilitarian would, in my opinion.
I would say that, firstly, you're not measuring personal utility, you're measuring utility overall. So you're including their, the utility gained from their,
you're
that they gain
everything
through their faith, in addition to whatever gains and harms happen external to them because of it, right? Those are necessarily part of it.
You're certainly correct that we definitely.
Everything. I'm not saying you're wrong that faith overall is higher or lower utility. I'm just saying you can't just not pose the question and say faith is inherently wrong. You can't do that if you're a consequentialist, I think.
Well, you can look at evidence, and that you can look at the evidence, which shows that statistically speaking, faith does necessarily lead to more incorrect beliefs.
I have certain.
But does
I definitely
incorrect
feel
beliefs really lead to more suffering?
Exactly.
Obviously.
No,
yes.
no, it's not obvious.
It's not obvious.
Not obvious at all.
I've laid out the process by which having inaccurate information creates
there may be a process where it could cause problems, but does it actually?
Process where it will cause problems.
No, it doesn't. It is not necessarily going to cause problems. It is not necessarily going to cause enough problems that it outweighs, as Cryo said,
in any one specific situation, it is not necessarily going to cause more problems than it avoids. However, statistically speaking, overall, it does cause more problems than it solves.
Okay.
Please tell me, please enlighten me about, and it's not just about more problems than it solves. You cannot measure the personal utility of faith in a human being's life.
No,
could
but
in
you can
theory.
estimate it.
In theory, you can.
Well, there is that thing. You could theoretically.
Have you estimated it? Have you estimated? Okay, guys, we're getting really back. We were trying to schedule the next thing.
Yeah, I can say that I can estimate it from my personal experience since I used to be religious. So I can estimate based on that, and that my experience seems to match what other people have said. In terms of how it affects them.
Yeah, I also grew up religious, and let me say, I think Freedom, that your experience of religion is a tremendous outlier.
Well, that's obviously true.
Possible.
Yeah,
it's very possible.
No, I think anyone will agree with that. Yeah, that.
As an Eastern European in a 90-something% Christian country with like less than 1% of the population being atheists, I actually know way more people like freedom than unlike freedom.
I'm glad that your place is better, but we live in the U.S. where we don't do anything.
I live in Canada, but it's only slightly better.
How do you know we live in the U.S.? Huh? How do you know that?
Actually, I don't. You guys could be living abroad somewhere.
By the way,
I could be Canadian, but I'm not.
You could. I'm Canadian. It's not that different here.
Fucking loser, fucking Canadian cuck soy boy. Sorry.
Well,
I feel like I have to say something here. So I don't think my opinion.
Okay. You don't have to.
So I've got to say something for the record for the voice recording that we should probably read out Galgalach's message because that's beautiful. I don't know why more Christians are obligated to be polyamorous and bisexuals. It's Adam and Steve, not Adam or... Sorry, Adam... I said Steve. It's Adam or Eve. It's Adam or Eve, not Adam... Somebody else.
You're bad at work.
I take that
Shut
back.
the fuck up.
Hey, you suck at reading.
You know what? You know what? Apparently I do. Somebody else read this.
I don't know why more Christians aren't obligated to be polyamorous bisexuals. It's Adam and Eve, not Adam or Eve.
Okay, now let Cryo talk, please.
Yeah, okay. Yes.
Okay, so you said that my experience, my experience was positive. Like, the thing is, I am an atheist bisexual in an Eastern European country with 99-point-something% Christians. My life was absolute garbage, so I don't think I'm biased. I'm just saying I acknowledge that religion brings happiness to people who are religious in this context. I've been like hard.
Yeah. Well, I was speaking from my perspective in terms of how much utility I can estimate faith brings.
But I'm saying you were implying that I was being biased because of the place I was in. I'm just trying to...
Oh, yes, I guess that was something, right?
Yeah, but here's the thing. I really suspect that a ton of people who have like a very great surface feeling of religion, like what they say to other people, a huge proportion of those people are doing things such as repressing internal sexuality.
That sounds like...
What? Sorry, I didn't hear you.
I do. It seems like if so many people in the place you are religious, and that because of that large proportion of religiousness, things are shit for people of non-heterosexual orientations.
Now, I did want to be clear that
non-cis-hets. Yeah.
I actually think. So this might be a hot take, but I actually think that if a minority is small enough, tiny enough, it should actually suffer and go fuck itself if it's for the betterment of the majority.
That it isn't that minority. The thing is that it isn't
part of that minority. Yeah.
Wait, but there are actually a lot of bisexual people in places where it's accepted, which means that there are probably a lot of them in the general human population.
Yeah, realistically speaking, it's not like they all leave. I think that generally speaking, even in places where it's mostly accepted, the stats for that are still coming up lower than they actually are due to
I'm not saying they leave. I'm saying they should suffer and get fucked for it.
No, what I'm saying is that the minority isn't very small, if it's a minority at all.
Still a minority. Who gives a shit?
Exactly.
You guys are the utilitarians.
Yeah, we are.
But
this goes back to what we were talking about, right?
Because I'm a utilitarian.
This goes back to what we were talking about preference fulfillment, right? The goal isn't to get a situation where over 50% of people...
Did we want to talk about what time to start the next meeting?
The same one.
I think we're all okay with the same time next meeting. What we should talk about is what we're reading next week.
Aren't we finishing the con?
Oh yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, we should. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think this is my own problem. I severely underestimated. I mean, it was fine the way it was, but it's so hard to talk about. It's like, I feel like with con, you almost need someone who really knows their stuff to like give a lecture on it. Like, does that make sense?
The issue is that Kant just doesn't want to be readable.
Yeah, it's hard.
To be fair, it makes it slightly easier for people to miss how racist he is.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think about how we want to do this. If we want to have potentially like. I don't even know. I mean, we can just do something like this where we just use it to start a conversation but if you guys have any ideas for maybe how we can run the next discussion to finish up the context.
Well, I think that what we did tonight was fine in the sense that we did go into free flow, but the free flow was like less than half of the time we spent, and we spent at least half of the time on the text itself. Wouldn't want to go below half.
I do feel, though, like we didn't get very far into discussing the text.
We did not.
No.
And maybe part of that is because we hadn't finished the text, and there were so many problems that the comment was like, "Oh well, I think you read the through section."
I think next week we're going to be talking a lot more about the text than we did this week.
I do think I would like to maybe have a fail-safe of like some way that we can have a concrete way to talk about it rather than me just waffling around being like, okay, we'll just read through it and like, I don't know what's important.
So I've been thinking about this, and I think that going through it piece by piece is definitely actually a really bad idea. It was worth trying. I'm not going to say
it was worth trying.
It turned out poorly.
It did.
I think that especially with Kant, it was just a really bad idea just because going through it point by point takes so fucking long.
Because his points are indecipherable and massive?
Yeah, because his points are indecipherable, massive, and usually wrong at every step.
Well, there's that too.
I don't think they're wrong at every step. I think they're
They are wrong at most of the steps. But I agree, some of the steps are not wrong.
His point wasn't to build an overall argument in the first two sections. I think that it'll matter more where he's wrong and right in the third section.
That's fair.
I kind of like going
looking forward
through
to
though. I think it might have been better if we read it more closely, maybe. Because
I think it would have been better if we just read section 3.
Probably.
But I do think, like, for me personally, like, I didn't prepare as much as I was planning to, because I think in something like this, you kind of do need a little bit, maybe this is super obnoxious, but, like, someone to lead things along, and, like, I was not.
That's not obnoxious.
No, that's probably true.
And I wasn't. Yeah, except for Milcom doesn't get the fucking voice chat. Oh my god! Like,
Milcom's actually really great for that, but he's not in voice chat, and that doesn't work.
He clearly understood the ideas really well.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, oh, Milcom, why did you have to be this way? I was thinking like maybe. So there are a couple of alternatives of like maybe we can, and this is like getting into like homework territory. I'm so sorry, but like try to like each make a little like concept map of like the points he's trying to make, you know, like my shitty thing that I did, but like then we can sort of like go over it and like we'll all have like a frame of reference like of which to like discuss.
Yeah, we'll probably have a better understanding of what the fuck he's talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And like I mean it's and it'll just be quicker to move through, so we won't just be reading piece by piece, but we'll actually have the points highlighted, you know, to go through. And I know that's kind of annoying, and obviously there's no way to like make anybody do it, and like obviously it's on me especially because I obviously didn't finish reading the text before we started, so like I have to do that. But also the other alternative is, you know, just going through like, you know, the Stanford Encyclopedia, like talking about the summary of this text or whatever.
I have looked at the Stanford Encyclopedia articles for a couple of these, and they seem really helpful.
They are really helpful. They are really, really helpful, and that's another alternative. I mean, like, the thing is, you don't have to just make the concept map all by yourself, like, just based on the text. Like, you can look stuff up, or we can just go through I don't know, just, like, so we all have, like, we haven't just read the text, but we, like, have written out and, like, kind of understand what it is, so we have somewhere to jump off of in the conversation and like
I know with with a couple of the previous texts, like just writing like notes about feelings about the text at certain points seemed really helpful.
Yeah.
Honestly, I've read the Wikipedia article on the categorical imperative in the past, and it's actually unlike mathematics articles, Wikipedia has really good philosophy articles.
Oh my god, math articles are awful.
Yeah. Anyway, I read that, and I went into it thinking, okay, I'm not completely sure how all of this works, so I'm sure that reading it, I'll actually get a good understanding of, like, why this is true or at least why it seems true. And instead all I got was, this is logic that doesn't make sense, and here's a conclusion. Obviously, I'm presupposing a certain conclusion with how I'm talking about it, right? Kant's easy to shit on, but I'm sure that you could make a pretty nuanced point about, or make a lot of nuanced points about, like, how no, this actually a thing that makes sense.
Guys, we should have a debate where we, like, have to debate for and against Kant.
Where we have to what? You're laughing too hard.
I'm sorry. We could debate his points, like with each other. We could do that.
That could be fun. Although
it would be fun.
Yeah. I mean, given that the point of debate is to have the argument regardless of your actual position.
Exactly.
We would have to because most of his points most of us disagree with strongly.
I actually think that would be. I think that would be a really good thing to do.
Yeah, actually, I really want to do that now.
As we did it would give us a better understanding.
Also do it like randomly with like numbers in random.org. We shouldn't let
they're randomly assigned. I agree. Yeah.
Do we want to do that for next time? Like something like I don't know if we can do that without having read it yet. Like I don't know, or like
what if we do it without prep? Like we've read the text and then we are randomly assigned our positions.
I think it would be better with prep.
Oh. No, because like if you do without prep, then all I'm going to do is do 2 preps.
Yeah.
Well, no, but I mean, what I mean is like because we're each arguing like specific points, right? So then you would have to do a lot more than 2 preps, right? Because it's what side you are on and of what point you're arguing.
I don't know. Huh. Interesting.
Anyway, I actually have to go eat, so I'm gonna head out. So my recording is gonna be ending here.
Okay.
I also have to go sleep because it's almost 1 a.m. Nice talk, guys. See ya.